Yo, what is going on, everybody? I'm Jordan Landry. Welcome back to the Two Man Advantage podcast. That's Dylan over there. Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's Sox Yankees time. Well, it already happened, but we're talking about it, so it's still Sox Yankees time. How
Yeah,
are you?
I am doing great. That series was freaking insane. Absolutely wild.
Yes.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah, and it got off to a strange start too. The very first game of the series on Thursday, which you bastard, you were there. Meanwhile, I was busy at work, being stuck at a job while the Red Sox were putting on probably the most ridiculously entertaining, while also ridiculously what even is baseball game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into that. It started off in the first inning, and 3 batters in, and it's not looking like it's going to be good for the Red Sox. Obviously, Brian Johnson on the mound. This was supposed to be a sale game, but we all know what happened there. And then it didn't look so good when Johnson, before he even gets an out, gives up 3 runs.
Right. I remember talking when we did the preview show for the series about how it's essential that Brian Johnson doesn't go out and give up 3 runs in the first inning. I remember, I think it was like 5 minutes into the game, I texted you and I was like, yeah, it's 3-0 already. And you were like, you gotta be kidding. He was like, I told you. And I was, oh. But yeah, I mean, he got off to a shaky start. I mean, he didn't get much help. Rock Holt made an error on the first play of the game. Then Giancarlo Stanton hit a single that probably, tore some hair off of people's bodies. It was hit so freaking hard. But then Didi Gregorius blasts a 3-run home run into the bullpen, and all of a sudden, I'm freaking out. In the right field corner, I showed you the picture of my seats, and you were pretty upset with me for it.
Whatever. Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah, I was upset from my seats at Fenway Park.
I was upset. I was upset. Hey, to be fair, in my section, it was littered with Yankee fans, so I had to deal with that for a little while, which it turned out to be great in the end. But in the second inning, and Aaron Hicks hits a solo home run, and it's 4-0. And yeah, it didn't look too pretty. It looked like we were en route to being only 4.5 up on the Yankees after that ball game, but the Sox got one back in the bottom of the second when CC Sabathia...
Hey, you're stealing my shtick here.
Sorry,
I'm the guy who runs through it all, right?
Hey. Okay, fine, go ahead.
Yeah, so Johnson tried to get back on track and almost did. He struck out 4 of the next bunch of batters. But got no help from the offense until the second, when Ian Kinsler got a line drive out to left. That landed for a single. And then Nunez singled on a close play at first after he grounded to third. Ended up having to be challenged. And then Swihart would end up loading the bases, and Mookie Betts would walk in and run, and that would be the Red Sox getting the run back, like you said. So move into the third, and the Yankees only able to get a walk as Johnson strikes out 2 more of them. And then you go to the bottom of the inning, and it's number 1. Home run number 1 of the series for Steve Pearce. He just crunches this one over the monsters.
Yeah, it was an absolute missile. And I remember saying before the inning started, because at 4-1, the Yankees have that 4-headed monster, 5-headed monster, whatever you want to call it, out of the back end of their bullpen. They can roll out, set up, and closers for days out there. And I said, just get me 1, and I'll be a little bit calmer. And yeah, Steve Pearce, I guess, heard me. And he wasted no time. That ball got out of there in a hurry. He hit that on the screws. He's always been a Yankee killer. He's always been a guy that hits lefties very well. And he hit a second home run. At the time, it was a second home run as a Red Sox, and it made it 4-2 going through the third inning.
And obviously, we'll talk more about this, especially as this game goes on, but what a pickup.
Right?
Like, this was a guy who, when he came in, you're like, who the hell is Steve Pearce? He's played for, like, every team in at least the American League, pretty much every team in baseball. He's the Dominic Moore of baseball.
Right.
But
the Red Sox
he ends up coming in.
The Red Sox were the final team he hadn't played for in the American League East.
Yeah, and he ends up coming in as this guy who hardly anybody even paid attention to. Like, oh, we got some dude named Steve Pearce. He ends up being a consistent number 3 hitter.
Right.
How odd. That doesn't happen in a mid-season trade.
Especially considering it didn't cost the Red Sox anything. Like, they traded at the time their, 18 and 22nd prospect and cash for Steve Pearce. So you're just like, okay, he's a good, like I knew a little bit about him because obviously I followed baseball a lot more, I think, than some people my age have. So I knew a little bit about him. I knew that he could hit lefties pretty well. I knew that he has always had success against the Yankees, but I didn't know he was that good against the Yankees.
Right.
And I didn't know he'd be that much of a steal. I thought he'd be a guy that could maybe, fill in for Moreland every once in a while and, put up some solid games here and there, hit for some power, maybe hit like 260, 275, but he's hitting like 350. It's just getting traded here.
And the Moreland thing that you brought up, I mean, that was the original intention of bringing him in was, without Hanley, for reasons that are pretty obvious if you were paying attention to the Sox at, May or June time. You don't have that backup guy. All right, maybe Brock Holt. Maybe you train Swihart to play first, but you don't have a guy who's a legit first baseman who can back up Moreland. And then you bring in this Pierce guy, and he ends up being a DH and a first baseman in this series, and even briefly a right fielder, which we'll get to. He has been an outstanding pickup, but nothing else would happen in the third. But quite a lot would happen in the fourth.
Oh, yeah.
So at this point, it's still 4-2. Yankees still sort of in control of the game. Johnson finally settles in. Doesn't get a 1-2-3 inning, but only a double and a walk in this inning. Gets 2 more strikeouts. But the Yankees don't push any runs across. Now we get to the bottom of the fourth. And before we jump into exactly what happened, it seems to me like this Red Sox team knows how to hit the ball in the fourth inning better than they do in any other inning. Of course, you had Mookie's 13-pitch grand slam. I'm pretty sure that was in the fourth inning, too.
Was it? I don't know. I literally just watched it because I was trying to hype myself up a little bit more to watch for this show. I'm trying to remember if it was the fourth or the fifth, but I think it might have been the fourth.
I'm pretty sure it was the fourth, and they were like, yeah, it was like he hit a walk-off in the fourth inning.
It was the fourth inning. I remember it now.
And it just happens here, but what I find strange, and after we get through talking about this inning, I want to talk about this fact a little more, is Jonathan Holder comes on out of the pen to replace CC Sabathia. Now, this is just the fourth inning, but just remember that Sabathia had only given up 2 runs in his 3 innings. First batter to face Holder is Jackie Bradley. He walks on 5 pitches. Mookie doubles. Jackie Bradley goes to third. Benny reaches on a fielder's choice.
Okay.
Because,
hold on. Yeah. Go ahead. Never mind.
Because it's a bonehead move, and somehow you have a ground ball on the infield with guys on second and third, and you manage to get no outs on an infield hit that wasn't even a hit.
Okay, hold on. Let me just. I think I said this. I said it pretty much perfectly when it happened. I yelled, "Jackie gave him the whoop-de-wop," because this is what happens. It's a routine comebacker to Holder. And instead of doing the normal pitcher thing, which is, this guy is halfway between third and, or like, he's running towards home and he just stopped. I should probably run at him, run him back to third, so if I don't get any outs, It's just bases loaded. But instead, I'm going to throw it immediately. And Jackie timed it perfectly. Like, he went to throw it, and Jackie was like, psych! And went back home. And then Andujar with this candy-ass sidearm throw to the plate that was like 20 miles an hour slower than his normal throw across the diamond. And Jackie had it probably still should have gotten him, but Jackie had a
beautiful slide.
Beautiful slide. He's always been good at that. Like, he always comes out of nowhere with these slides that are like perfect dive, perfect hand placement, whatever.
Yep.
And he was safe. And I knew right then that the Sox were maybe not have the big inning that they had, but they were at least going to tie the game that inning and probably take the lead. I didn't know it was going to be as explosive as it wound up being.
Yeah, and like you said, the smart move there is either run at him or throw ahead of him.
Right.
But he's a runner on third. You don't throw behind him and give him the opportunity to go home.
Right.
It was just a bad move. But, still great base running by Bradley. Like you said, he timed that throw perfectly. It was like Holder lifted his arm to throw it, and Jackie was like, see ya.
He looked like a wide receiver juking out like the free safety and had a walk-in touchdown, basically. That's what it looked like. It was that impressive.
Yeah, so he ends up barely getting in. Benintendi would go on to steal second, but it didn't matter where he was on the base paths, because big ol' Steve Pierce was back in the box,
Stevie Piss Missile.
and he crushed another one. This one a 3-run shot, put the Sox up 6-4. What's going through your mind at this point?
Well, I think I screamed like a girl when it happened. I mean, like, obviously you're in a section with a bunch of Yankees fans, like I was, and I was like yelling at them. Like that's how electric the home run was. Because I remember the person I was with, we were talking about how like some of these guys the Sox picked up. Like if you look at their like, you know how they put a picture on the jumbotron, like their headshot. Like wow, Steve Pierce looks like a grade A douchebag. Like I mean, honestly,
He looks like a serial killer.
Yeah, he does. He looks like the kind of guy that you would punch if like you were given the opportunity to. And then he hits that home run, and I immediately turned to him, and I was like, he can look like a douche all he wants. He can look like a douche all he wants, because that thing was absolutely crushed. And this is a problem that I think the Yankees have had all year with Aaron Boone, is he doesn't know when to pull a reliever. Like, even, I know we'll talk about it in a little bit, even in the Sunday night game when Heath Hembry came in and just absolutely messed his pants. Cora didn't let him work his way out of it. Like, he got to a point where he was like, okay, I gotta go get him. Boone waited way too long to go get Holder. And it should have been after the home run because he was done. You could look at it. I saw his face after because they show the replay. I saw his face after, and he was like, oh my god, I'm not used to getting hit this hard. This is bad. And he was shook, but, I mean, they let him stay out there, and oh my god, did that guy get crapped on. He didn't even get an out.
Ugly.
Gave up 7 runs and didn't even get an out. Gave up 5 hits. It was bad.
Yeah, after Pierce, it did just keep going. Like you said, JD hit a double. Ian Kinsler would drive him in on a single. I think, I'm trying to remember, I might be wrong on this, but I think that was Kinsler's first RBI as a Red Sox.
Yeah, that was he had 2 RBI that night, and that was the first one.
Yeah, so Nunez would double to bring Kinsler in. At this point, it's 8-4. And, you know, I'm at work. I obviously can't see this game yet, but I have you texting me. I got my cousin texting me, all giving me updates on this game. And, geez, this was one hell of a game to not be able to watch and just get messages for. Because it was, every time that my phone would go off, I had to look. It was like, what the hell happened here? And then it's, you know, it's 4-2. Oh, they're up. Oh my god, it's 10-4.
Yeah, after the Nunez double, that's when Boone finally was like, maybe I should go get this kid. It was 8-4.
Chad Green would come on in relief, and it looked like he was going to get him out of it without too much damage, because he would get Swihart, and then Brock Holt would line out, but then Jackie Prather was like, no, not so fast, big guy.
Yeah.
He would double and bring Nunez in. At this point, the Sox have already batted around. And then Betts would get another hit.
Yep.
And Benintendi, this time, instead of reaching on a fielder's choice, got a single of his own and drove in Jackie again.
Yeah.
Before Steve Pierce, who, at this point, I think nobody was going to be satisfied unless he hit another homer. He ended up grounding into a force out. And that would finally end an 8-run 4th inning for the Red Sox.
Yeah. It was crazy because, like, I remember, like, I texted you saying I was praying it was going to be another one of those Baltimore games because the Yankees were up 4-0, and it started downpouring after Hicks hit the home run. So it was 4-0. It starts pouring. Obviously, people, you know, they go down to get cover, so they go underneath into the concourse area. There's a bunch of Yankees fans over like 5 sections from me. They're at the bottom of their section going, "Let's go Yankees!" And they're starting the whole chant. Yes. And then I remember after that inning, actually it was before Chad Green had finished his warm up tosses. A bunch of Red Sox fans from like 2 sections over from them walked into their section and started a "Let's go Red Sox" chant at the bottom. And it's great. Like sometimes people say that the rivalry is kind of dead.
Well, it was for a
while,
for a long time,
but it's never been that way with fans. Like the fans at Sox Yankees games because it's pretty close most nights when the Yankees come to town in terms of the matchup between fans. Like there's a lot of Yankees fans that come to Fenway.
Well, it's real close proximity. It's
right.
Not that far of a...
Right, and people up in that area of Massachusetts, there's a lot of Yankees fans that live there anyway. But
traders.
Right. But like, yeah. the rivalry's never been dead between fans, and then I think this series we saw a little bit of the rivalry between players come back. I know we have a little bit of the course the last couple of years, but this series alone, I think, brought a lot of it back.
I would say, the rivalry may never have been dead, but it certainly was on life support for a while.
Oh yeah,
Pretty much between like 2009-ish, maybe 2010 to like 2014, 15, where yeah, there were still the fans who were really rabid about it, but it was more about, okay, this is a Red Sox Yankees game, so we're supposed to be into it and supposed to be invested rather than being legitimately like, oh my god, it's Red Sox Yankees, this is amazing. But the last couple of years, it's definitely turned around and it has reignited and it has become, oh my god, this is Red Sox Yankees. I hate Yankees fans and I know that they hate me.
right. It's great. It is honestly, it's fun going to games or being in an area with a bunch of Yankees fans and they see you with the Red Sox shirt and they kind of give you that dirty look and you get into these little like pissing matches during the course of the weekend with Yankees fans, and it's just great. And yeah, I mean the thing is with the rivalry is it's only quote unquote dead when not both teams are good. So like you said, from like 2009 to about 2015, it was either the Yankees were dominant. I know the Red Sox made the playoffs in 2009, but that rivalry had a completely different feel to it. Yeah. But 2010, 11, and 12, the Red Sox weren't even a playoff team. 2013, the Yankees weren't, and the Red Sox obviously won the World Series. And then 2014 and 15, it was just the Yankees that were the Yankees weren't elite anymore, but they were a better team than the Red Sox were. And then you get into 2016, the Yankees. It was like on life support for the first half, and the Yankees had that huge second half when Gary Sanchez came up, and then that kind of sparked it a little bit, and then Hanley hit that walk-off home run that just sent Fenway into oblivion, and people were like, oh yeah, let's go. The Red Sox-Yankees rivalry's back. And then last year, the Yankees were great. Sox were great. This year, it's at a whole new level, like that I haven't seen since about 2007, 2008.
Yeah, but that's just it, though, is if a rivalry is so one-sided, it doesn't even feel like a rivalry at that point. It's like, personally, my favorite rivalry is Bruins-Canadiens. And I feel like up until last year, maybe 2 years ago, that rivalry was dead. But not because, even though they had faced each other twice in the playoffs in the last 10 years, or maybe 3 times, but it was so one-sided in favor of Montreal, especially during the regular season. And the games themselves just weren't that physical. They weren't engaging. And, of course, baseball and hockey, it's completely different. But the fans, it felt like we didn't care as much when the Canadiens were coming to town. And we kind of shifted focus to
Toronto.
Like the Canucks and Toronto. Because, obviously, the Canucks is who we beat for the Cup in 2011. And then Toronto... Oh, that fan base pissed me off.
That's why.
13.
That's why the fan bases. I mean, like we shift quickly, like especially when matchups get one-sided and teams aren't as good as they used to be. We just shift our focus to fan bases, because that's kind of where the sporting world has, like the fan bases of all sports teams have shifted to, is like social media. Like, oh, the Maple Leafs fans are the absolute worst to follow on Twitter. So I hate the Maple Leafs now. The Penguins, the same way. The Yankees. It's just kind of how it's been lately. We're such a social media driven world that we see fan bases on social media and then we automatically hate their team because of the fan base.
Yeah, but the point I was making is it happened with the Red Sox too. It seemed like once one side became dominant and the rivalry felt like it was not so much a rivalry and more of just one team owning the other, that's when you started to see, it felt like Red Sox Rays was a bigger deal for a while.
Right. We had the Machado thing last year that made the Red Sox Orioles seem like a much bigger deal. Yeah. And the Orioles weren't even that good. It was just a matter of, it's Pedroia versus Machado. And sometimes it's just as simple as that. It's a player versus a player. Even though I don't think there's any bad blood.
That creates a team rivalry, and because, you hit one, you hit them all. So the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry historically has been very vitriolic and very violent, but the last 2 years has been the first time, maybe really since 2004, that it has been this white hot that everyone's paying attention and everyone's invested.
Yeah.
I feel like before it's been a novelty. Be like, oh, it's Red Sox Yankees, that's cool. But now it's like, no, it's Red Sox Yankees. Pay attention.
Everyone's watching now. It's probably because both of these teams are on pace to win like 110 games this year.
Yeah.
Well, the Red Sox are now.
The
The Yankees aren't. Yeah, I mean, we saw that in Game 2 of the series. We might as well move into that.
It's not just a baseball game anymore. And that's been the problem. Is it's just been baseball. It's been Red Sox Yankees playing baseball, and for years it was just Bruins Canadians playing hockey. Whereas now these teams are finally back to actually butting heads. They're not just playing professional baseball. Or professional hockey, if you want to stay with the Bruins analogy. It's rivalry. It's competition. These teams are going after each other. There's been fights in the last few years. There's been like legitimate things, and then of course bringing it back to the Thursday night game because we have gone off on a huge tangent from that. It was stuff like that fourth inning, and just how the momentum just shifted, and you could hear the crowd. And you know what? This 4-game crowd, probably one of the best at Fenway in a long time.
Oh, easily. And like we've said, now that the Red Sox Yankees are becoming an actual thing again, it's not just, it's Red Sox Yankees.
Yeah.
Well, I should probably go to the game in case something happens. Now it's, oh crap, it's Red Sox Yankees. Something's going to happen. I gotta be there. And it's just like diehards all over the ballpark. Not some fair weather fans that only show up because,
right.
One team's doing well. These are diehards. Like I saw some people there that were like in their 60s and 70s losing their minds during that fourth inning, and it was a sight, and it was a treat to watch.
Before we jump into the rest of the game, there's 2 points that I want to bring up. One, and I alluded to it earlier, I told you to pay close attention to the fact that Sabathia had only given up 2 runs. Now, obviously I know this. I know the reasoning behind it. And it might just be hindsight making it look like a super stupid decision, but why do you pull your pitcher who's in a position to win after just 3 innings?
Well, I think his pitch count was like 84. So
77.
77? Well, he didn't have remotely like good stuff at all. And I think maybe a little bit had to do with the fact that Swihart tattooed a line drive off of his arm. It might have had a little bit to do with that. Because we saw the throw he made after that, and he just uncorked it, and it went absolutely nowhere near the first baseman. But that might have actually been the second inning, I don't remember. But no, it was the third, I remember it now. But he had a rough couple of innings. He threw a lot of stressful pitches. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's already had a lot of innings on his arm over the course of his entire career this season. 77 pitches and a lot of stressful ones. And, like, as a pitcher, I know that if you get into certain situations where you have to throw a lot of stressful pitches early in a game, you are gassed. Like, 60 pitches feels like 100. And that's probably where he was feeling. They were like, we got this gigantic horse of a bullpen. We might as well utilize it and see where we can fit certain guys. I mean, Holder entered this series with a 2.06 ERA and a whip of under .9. Or it was under 1, definitely. And then, you'd expect him to go out there and pitch well because he had all season, and against the Red Sox specifically, he was great in the beginning of the year when they came and when they matched up. It just didn't happen. But I understand the reasoning. I think in hindsight you do the same thing. You may not put in Holder, but you might have gone with Chad Green instead of Holder, But yeah, I think in hindsight, you probably still yank CeCe after 3 innings because he just didn't look like CeCe. He had 4 walks and he was just getting hit around a little bit. Even if balls weren't finding holes, they were hitting line drives or just finding gloves. He just didn't look like himself.
And I get that, but the point that I'm trying to figure out is he's still in the position to win. And obviously, we weren't in the dugout. I don't remember hearing anything about this, after the game. But unless he tells Boone, I can't go, don't pull him. Obviously, I'm thankful he did, but I don't... Until the pitcher proves that he can't keep pitching and you let the starter lose his win, I'd leave him in and at least let him go to the 5th and give him that shot. But
I know I'm fast-forwarding a little bit to Sunday, but I think... You get him into a situation where it's kind of like what happened with David Price on Sunday, where you put him
Right,
back out
that's-
there.
yeah.
But you put him back out there, and then you turn a start where he can be like, okay, I only gave up 2 runs in 3 innings. It wasn't my best stuff, but at least I didn't get tossed around. And you put him out there, and he goes out and gives up 3 runs, or he gives up 4 runs, and then you're still in a
Still
position
better than 8.
you're still in a position to lose the game. But it's just.
Yeah, but at least it's on him rather than just being
But
like,
with the way the
well,
Yankees bullpen looks, they could have gone to anybody in that bullpen. They just chose the wrong guy. I think if they go to Chad Green and he goes out and pitches 2 shutout innings, and they go to Robertson, and they go to Britton, and they go to Betances and Chapman, and they win the game even 4-3, 5-3, whatever it may be, they feel confident about it. Even if they went to Holder 2 innings later. And they're in a position where because I know the Yankees got 1 run back in the top of the 5th on another Gregorius home run. Things change a little bit. It just went to the wrong guy.
It's just for me, can't wrap my head around why you don't let your starter try to work out of it. And then if he goes out there and, like you said, he's in a position where before he even gets an out in the 3rd or in the 4th, there's already 2 guys on. At that point, that's when I go to the bullpen. But I don't just immediately go to the bullpen and be like, oh, you don't have your stuff today. Screw it. But moving on, this is the second point I want to bring up, is Brian Johnson's making his 1100th start of the season out of the bullpen. And in all of them, or I think all of them, they pulled him regardless of the situation before the 5th.
Right.
Even when he was pitching very well and only giving up, 1 or 2 runs, maybe not even a run, but they were pulling him and trying to be careful and not letting him, overdo it. But in this one, he goes 4 innings and gives up 4 runs, comes back out for the 5th because, all right, we got a big lead, we'll let you get your win. And he gives up a homer right away. And then they let him go. I'm not angry that they did this. I'm very glad that they did this because I wanted Johnson. We talked about it in the preview. He has pitched far better than the win-loss record suggests. He could easily, if they just put their faith in him to actually finish an inning, he would have 4 or 5 wins in his starts this year. But why? But you look at all those other starts, and he goes 4 innings, or 4 2/3. You don't even let him get that 3rd out. But in this one, he gives up 5 runs, and you're like, go for it. Why? Why do you gotta play him like that?
Because you got a huge lead. You don't need to throw
But
any.
he had the support in the other games too. Why not just let him
Not in all of them.
Let the guy get the win.
Not in all of them, because I remember there was a game where he was up 2-1, and he had a guy on base, and they took him out. So
And
I can
that
understand
one makes
that.
sense.
But doesn't really have much run support. I can understand if the game was 7-0, but he's never had one of those games this year. At least not to my knowledge. I don't think there's been a game he started where the Red Sox have given him that kind of run support.
No, but he's had 3 and 4 run leads that they could have let him work with.
But I think he also pitched better in the Yankees game than the earned runs he allowed, because he gave up 3 home runs, and there's an advanced stat. And I know you hate advanced stats, but batting average on balls in play, he didn't give up many hits.
No,
but he gave up 3
homers. It was
homers.
all homers.
But he gave up
away the homers. He had 5 shutout innings.
Yeah, exactly. He gave up 3 home runs, 5 runs. He had 11 strikeouts though. Brian Johnson.
And that's what I was gonna get to next. Is he gave up that homer, and like I said, I'm glad they let him do it because I think he's earned the right to win more games than he has.
Right.
And he ended up he would go out and sit down the next 3 guys. But it's just my thing. It's just so weird to me that he's had all these times where it's been so close, and I've been so frustrated because he's been 1 out away. Only had a runner on first, but no, can't let him finish. And then in this one, they let him go. It's like, why? But yeah, he pitched a great game. Like you said, 11 strikeouts, and spoilers, he was pulled for the 6th. So I'll read off his stat line right now because it's relevant information. 5 innings, 6 hits. So you take away those 3 homers, and it's just 3 hits.
Yeah, there's only 3 balls that they
2
put in.
2 walks. 2 walks. Only 4 of the 5 runs were earned, and 11 strikeouts. He did pitch really well.
It was a very
Not
deceiving stat line because of the home runs.
Yeah, not his best game, not his best start, but still a strong enough one. Obviously, it was strong. He got the win for it. Um, but it, like I said, it's just frustrating that he's had so many chances. But this, I think, is actually his first win from a starting spot. It might be his second, but
No, he got a win in his first start of the year. He went 6 innings that game, 1 earned, 5 Ks, and that was against Tampa. That was against Miami, rather. Sorry, on April 2nd. That was his second win as a starter.
oh wow,
Yeah.
he pitched. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. Wow. So he went exactly 3 months between wins.
Yep.
Jeez.
3 months and a day. 3 months and a day between wins. That's sad. I feel bad. He's been good. Like he's definitely.
He has.
He's been a very reliable arm. I mean, I don't think he's going to make the playoff roster by any means, but
No.
I think, but he's been good.
But I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset if people got hurt and we had to play him.
I think I'd be upset.
Well, it depends on him. Depends on him. But the Red Sox weren't done. As they would go to the bottom of the fifth, and JD would get on with a double. He would get to third on a wild pitch, and Ian Kinsler would get his second RBI of the day. Ian Kinsler, another excellent pickup. Which we'll get to it. Is it in this game or is it the next one? It's the next one. God, he started his Red Sox career really hot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he looks like a great pickup, and we'll hopefully see him. Luckily, like a couple of other guys, they expect him to be back right away. As soon as he's eligible to be activated. But I don't even think, excuse me, I don't think, like, we're looking at his 3 for 6 he had that game with the 2 RBIs, he had a double, had a stolen base. I don't even think his offense was the highlight of his day.
No.
Like, the 2 defensive plays he made, and I believe they were in the same inning.
They were in the same inning.
Like, wow. Like, he made a couple of plays that, like, not even, dare I say, Dustin Pedroia would have ever made. Like that, like the diving catch. The diving catch probably. The diving catch probably because I mean it's a play that you see a lot of second basemen make. But that ground ball he fielded on the shortstop side of second base, off balance throw, momentum going to left field, threw a strike to first base.
He wasn't even looking. He didn't even look.
Wow, that was a great play. And I lost my mind when that happened. I was like, "Wow, that's a play that Pedroia would never make because he was never fast enough to go get that ball. Like he moved to second base because he couldn't make plays like that, where he could go deep in the hole and make a strong, accurate throw. But Kinsler just wow, that was amazing, unbelievable.
Yeah, play. That was a fantastic play, and like you said, there's few guys who could make that play. And what I liked about it is. It wasn't the flashy play where he's, against his body and so he's got to do the jump throw. Nah, he just grabs it on the backhand, puts it in his throwing hand, doesn't even look, and just kind of, as he's spinning, just lets the ball go. It didn't even look like he threw it. Like, he's just spinning his body, and the ball comes out of his hand and lands right in Steve Pearce's glove. Well, not right in it. Pearce had to make a hell of a play himself, but just all around, just a beautiful play. A great game from Kinsler. But moving forward now to the 6th inning, because the Red Sox wouldn't do anything else in the 5th, and Brandon Workman comes out of the pen, and at this point I sent you a text, which you didn't respond to, and I said, so busy. The guy...
I was busy.
I said, so the guy who got sent down to make room for Eovaldi is the first guy that they call out of the bullpen to pitch against the Yankees. Yeah. Which at this point it's still a pretty close season series, or pretty close, not season series, but standings race. 5.5 coming in. And this is Brandon Workman, who we were kind of like, well, why did they send him down over some other guys? But obviously he's low on their totem pole if they are willing to send him down. Yet he's the first one they call on to pitch against the Yankees in a game where it's already been proven that the Yankees offense is going to be hot and has been on fire just in this game alone.
Right.
Just, alright, whatever. I mean, it's unorthodox, but you know what? And now, actually, as I say it out loud, it made sense when I typed it, but now that I say it, it actually speaks a lot to the coaching style of Cora to be like, you know what? I know we just sent you down, but here's your chance to win our trust back.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Cora has done all year, and I think it has a little bit to do with, trying to just invoke confidence in all these guys. Like, I remember they were talking about it on ESPN on Sunday night. Like, Mookie Betts, they're talking about, like, what's the difference? Like, obviously they're not going to have him, like, down talk Farrell and just hype up Cora, but, like, what's the difference between your performance this year and your performance last year in regards to, having Alex Cora with you? And he's like, this dude tells me I'm the best player in the world every single day.
Yeah.
And, like, he was like, there was a game I went 0 for 3, I had a couple strikeouts, and I thought the next day, like, he was going to ignore me. No, I walked into the clubhouse, and he gave me a big old hug and said, here's the best player in the game. like, and that's what Cora does, and like, I wrote about it for primetimesportstalk.com. Shameless
God,
plug.
you won't even plug our podcast anywhere but on the podcast, but you'll find time to plug a website.
It hasn't been published yet, but like but the thing with Cora was there was a completely different energy and swagger to this team coming out of the spring, and like we've seen a bunch of guys get thrown into positions that we aren't really accustomed to seeing them, especially Workman. I know the game was pretty much established already that the Red Sox weren't going to, regardless of what the Yankees did on offense, the Red Sox were just not going to lose the game. Steve Pierce alone wouldn't allow that. It was 10 to.
I wouldn't have been surprised if like lightning struck and changed all of the Red Sox into like 5-year-olds dressed in Baltimore Orioles jerseys. Like,
I would have.
That's just
I'm gonna be honest with
anything
you.
could have happened in that game.
I'm going to be honest with you. I probably would have been shocked if that happened, but.
Nah,
but
the
like,
way that game was going, I would have believed anything that happened.
Workman had a Workman outing where he was solid, but he gave up an absolute bomb to Giancarlo Stanton. Like, off the bat, you knew it was crushed. And that's been the par for the course for them. His last 4 outings, or at least his last 3 outings, I'm not sure about his 4th one, but he's given up a home run. And, like, his ERA's been completely screwed by the fact he gives up home runs a lot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he looked good. He gave up that home run to Stanton, but, like, it's Stanton, it's garbage time. You're just like, whatever, dude. Like, congratulations. You had a home run in a 12-5 game. Our guy that we picked up for pennies on the dollar hit 2 more than you that night. So nice job. Congratulations. Here's your ribbon.
Getting to that now. You go to the bottom of the 6th because in the 6th inning, Workman would go 1, 2, 3.
Right.
He would get 1 strikeout. And then in the 6th, it's Steve Pierce again, completing the hat trick. 3 for 4 at this point. Already his 6th RBI of the game. I mean, to this point in the game, Steve Pierce is beating the New York Yankees by himself. It's 14-5 Red Sox, but it's 6-5 Pierce.
Right.
They would get nothing else. And then you mentioned Giancarlo Stanton would go deep, his 25th of the year. And Dennis Eckersley had a line on commentary that just really bothered me. Yes, it's a blowout at this point, but he says, whatever, it's 1 run. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I bet you anything that's what Aaron Boone was saying in the 3rd inning when the Red Sox made it a 4-2 game. And then look what happened in the next inning. It's called momentum, Eck. You get 1 run, it instills faith, and the rest of the team is, could end up back in the game as a result. Of course, in this one they didn't, but it's just, you can't just write something off like that. Like, especially when it's a Stanton homer and he's still got Gregorius and Torres hitting behind him. You can't just say, oh, whatever, it's 1 run. Be like, that's how runs start. That's how rallies start, is with 1 run. Luckily, it wouldn't come to fruition that way, and the Red Sox would end up getting another run in the 8th, as JD would get, actually, I think it was his only RBI in the game.
It was. And it was a fluke one, too.
Yeah.
I was laughing my ass off.
Was this the play when... Yeah, it was. Bases loaded, and just a simple chopper to Bird. He could have gone literally anywhere and just held the ball.
Well, because the thing is he was not in the position where he could have beat Martinez to the bag, because he went to throw to second, but nobody covered second base. And then he went to flip to Britton, but Britton was behind Martinez. JD, and like to his credit, because a lot of like superstar caliber players dog it out of the box when they just hit a routine chopper to the first baseman. Yeah. He busted his butt down the line, and I give him credit because he does it all the time. But he was busting ass, and he made it so that they couldn't even throw it, because in a lot of situations the first baseman could probably still take it himself and beat the superstar because he's jogging out of the box. But he sprinted, and it wound up being 15-6 at the time after that play finished.
Well, I think he knew that he hit it in a good spot, that if he really was on his horse, he might have a shot to beat it. But my thing is, yeah, there wasn't a guy on second, but he would have been there. If you just threw the ball to him, it probably would have been a close play at second, but it still would have been a play at second. Or just throw it home. I mean, obviously the catcher's covering home. Or just run it to first yourself instead of waiting for Britton. So you got 3 chances to get an out and get out of the inning, but instead of run scores. This was just an ugly game for the Yankees, and it was beautiful for us because of it. Ryan Brazier would come in the 9th. Brett Gardner would triple. Hicks would walk. Stanton would get a sac fly, and then Didi Gregorius would ground out to Brock Holt, and that would end Game 1. Which I'm looking now, and we've spent 40 minutes talking about it. And you know what? I don't think this podcast is gonna speed up.
No,
because there's still a lot to talk about in the 3 games that followed this. So just let's cut corners as much as we can here. Final thoughts on Game 1?
I think it was a microcosm of how both teams' seasons have gone. Whenever the Red Sox face any sort of adversity, they fight back, and even if they don't win the game, they make it entertaining. And with the Yankees, they're just a team that is so reliant on being ahead the entire game. Once they get down, it's like they're screwed. And it's the same way when they have Judge and Sanchez. I mean, Yankees fans will blame the series on not having those two. Yeah. But when they're losing games, for the course of the entire season, they're just not a very resilient team. They're a team that puts their head down and then puts their tails between their legs, and they're just like, yeah, well, there's always tomorrow. And in a series like that, you cannot have that kind of mindset, because I remember saying it in the preview show. This series could go 2 ways. If the Red Sox sweep, it's 9.5 games, and you're pretty much praying that you get hot enough to keep a wild card spot, because right now they're only 3 games up on Oakland for home field advantage. Bro. Yeah, and if the Yankees swept, it was a 1.5 game lead, and the Red Sox are terrified.
Yeah.
Going further, fourth in the season, and then without Judge and Sanchez, that just makes you even more scared.
And I'm really glad that you brought up the Judge and Sanchez thing, because it's something I wanted to touch on at the end of the series review. But since it's come up and it's relevant, we'll just do it now. I'll try to keep it to this first game because we still have 3 more to review. But the excuse was going to be, no matter what happened in the series, even if they won, it was going to be, well, we didn't have Judge and we didn't have Sanchez. Right. Well, just looking at this first game, you would have needed them to both homer in every at-bat for it to make a difference.
Yeah, and so here's where I like to poke fun at Yankees fans for their just stupidity. Over the course of this season, Gary Sanchez is hitting $188 for the whole season, and Aaron Judge, mind you, he's having a great year. He's been way better, way more consistent than he was in 2017. On the road, his batting average is only .206. So you would have needed them to both have uncharacteristically great games for you to even make a series out of this, let alone win the first game.
Yeah. We didn't have Judge, we didn't have Sanchez. Cry me a river. We were supposed to have Chris Sale starting this game, and we had Brian Johnson, and we still went out and whooped your ass. Okay. Cry me a river.
And of guys that didn't play in the series for the Red Sox, you have their ace.
We didn't have
Devers.
Bogarts.
Didn't have Bogarts.
Kinsler after game 2.
Hey. Didn't have Pedroia either. We're talking about, and we didn't have Moreland for the first 2 games. I mean, granted, Steve Pearce played out of his mind for 2 games, but Mitch Moreland didn't play. He was an all-star this year. And you went out there and struck out 11 times against Brian Johnson in 5 innings, and you're going to say that it's because Judge and Sanchez didn't play? Come on, there would have been more strikeouts.
God, imagine if Sale did get the start.
Oh
If
my
he got
God.
11 strikeouts with Johnson, that's like 17 with Sale.
And that was through 5 innings.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, great.
It's all because Judge and Sanchez weren't there.
Of course.
Like if Judge and Sanchez were there, it's completely different.
The only game
Completely different.
The only game I think would have made a difference was Sunday. But
Even though we didn't have Sale, we didn't have Pedroia, we didn't have Devers, we didn't have Bogarts, we didn't have. We lost Swihart too.
Swihart's been red hot too. We had to play Leone, and we had to call Dan Butler. I forgot that person was real until he got called up the other day. But yeah.
Who the hell was? I guess we'll get to it, but
Yeah, that's another guy they called up.
This
was the guy that got called up for Kinsler. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, because I got something I want to say about that. But we'll move on finally to Friday night's game. Rick Porcello versus Luis Severino. This was one that, from a pure pitcher's duel perspective, I was really looking forward to, especially after the news of Sale going down. Because obviously we know how good Porcello can be, and we know how good Severino could be if he wasn't slumping. Porcello, but just looking at their records, they're almost parallel. 13-4 coming in for Porcello, 14-4 for Severino, 4.03 ERA Porcello, 2.94 for Severino. Remember those two numbers. This game started ugly.
For Severino.
And by ugly, I mean ugly. Because Porcello goes up 2 strikes on Gardner and hits him. You lose the leadoff guy in the game on a hit by pitch when you're a strike away from a strikeout. But then he made up for it because Stanton grounded into a double play like almost immediately after. So it completely erased the base runner and made that entire thing redundant. But at the time, I was very angry. Gregorius would pop out, and that would end the inning. 14 pitches for Porcello through the first.
Wow, a lot of pitches for Porcello in that one. Foreshadowing, Porcello didn't throw a lot of pitches.
There's a reason. There's a reason I made sure to say that he had 14 pitches. So we get to the bottom of the first, and the fireworks. And this is when it really occurred to me that, yeah, this is a rivalry again. Because Severino, was it the first pitch? Or was it the second?
It was the first pitch.
The very first pitch throws right at Mookie Betts, and you know...
His head, mind you.
You know it's a power play, being like, you want to throw at my guy? Well, I'll throw at the best player in baseball. Here's the part...
This is a funny time.
Here's the part that I don't understand. Okay. Porcello's was clearly an accident. It's a 2-strike count. He has a chance to put the guy away. He's not going out there trying to hit him.
Mind you, Gardner crowds the plate too, and he tried to throw a front door sinker, and it got him, and it nicked him. It wasn't even like it was a clean fastball to his rib cage.
But this was deliberately at Betts.
Right.
And the ump issues warnings to both benches, which, you know what? Okay, I get it. You want to control the game before it gets out of hand. Because if the first inning is like this, who knows what the rest of the game's going to be.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, you just had a pitcher throw at potentially the MVP, potentially the AL MVP. I don't want to get this far, but if he keeps it up the way it is, and the team keeps it up the way he is, he's going to be AL MVP, postseason MVP, and dare I say it? I mean, you know what's next after postseason MVP.
Right.
So, yeah, Cora's gonna be a little peeved that you're just giving a warning to Severino when this was clearly deliberate. And Cora starts to come out of the dugout, and the ump immediately goes, no, you're not allowed to talk to me. No, save space! And then Cora opens his mouth and immediately gets ejected. Like, dude, you're gonna make this call and then not give either side a chance to even respond? You're just gonna toss Cora like it's nothing? Like, come on, and Cora's giving him ear, and he's laying into him, and the guy's just, like, looking at his notepad, probably, like, trying to remember what his middle name is. Like, what's a strike zone?
Right.
Oh yeah, could you get this guy out of here? I just ejected him for like actually trying to step up to me.
Right.
Oh, that pissed me off so bad.
And
Bad.
What I find interesting about this whole situation, and it seems to be parallel with most times that umpires warn the benches, is you didn't do it after Porcello hit Gardner because you knew it was unintentional.
Yeah.
You warning both benches after Severino throws at Mookie Betts' head. And now, throwing at anybody's head's bad enough, but you're throwing it at the perennial, or at a guy who's definitely in the final voting, or will be at the end of the year for AL MVP.
Definitely.
That's really bad for baseball. And you're admitting that you know he did it intentionally.
Yeah.
In that situation, I feel like you don't warn both benches. You just get rid of the pitcher. You just throw him out of the game. And for Severino's sake, it would have been his best start in 5 outings. It would have been his first shutout performance in about a month.
I didn't even think of it that way.
They should have just ejected his ass. Instead they let him go. They warned both benches. Cora, and mind you, this is one thing that I felt like Farrell actually holds over Cora, is the ability to get thrown out of games. Because I feel like there have been instances this year where I think it would have been great for Cora to get ejected, but he didn't do it.
Yeah.
But this was a great time for him to come out. And I know he got ejected before he got mad. And I know he got ejected before he got even angry. But watching him get his money's worth after was entertaining. It was must-see TV. He got pissed off, and it was great. And
well, he's already ejected. I mean, what more can he do? You might as well just throw everything at him at that point instead of, I was going to be professional and just question the call. But no, now I'm going to attack you because you're tossing me out of the game.
Right. And it was a perfect way and not that the Sox needed any more momentum or swagger or energy after the first game, but they responded very well, and I was definitely a pleasant sight to see.
Yeah. So all the while, Mookie's just sitting there like, guys, someone just threw at my head.
I'm hitting ball now. Please go away.
Can we just baseball, please? I don't even know what happened to Mookie in that at bat.
He flew out.
I know he was out.
Yeah,
but,
he flew out to left.
Yeah, so he flies out, and then Benny Two Bags comes up and lives up to the name because ground rule double. And at this point, I thought we were gonna have an undisputed series MVP here because Steve Pearce just crunched another one.
Oh my god! And it was off the light standard again. It was the same spot as his third home run the night before. He is a certified Yankee assassin. Like that the show he put on for the first 2 games was unlike any other that I've seen in a long time. I mean, I think the last time the Red Sox had a guy explode for 4 home runs in a Yankee series was Kevin Millar.
Yeah.
Back in 2004, and I know he did that. And he had a 3 home runs.
A 7-game series.
He had no. It was
it
was in the regular season. He had a 3. He also had a 3 home run game in that series.
Yeah,
and
that's
game
what
the Sox
thinking
lost, and mind you, but yeah, like that was the last time I can remember a guy on the Red Sox having a 4 home run series over the span of 2 games for the Yankee series. But wow, he definitely showed something this weekend that made me a little bit more excited to have him aboard. And I know he was great offensively, but he was only getting like singles, occasionally getting a double.
Yeah.
But he had as many home runs this weekend as he had in Toronto this year, which was great. And now he's got more in Boston than he had in Toronto in 6 less games, which is pretty cool too. And all 5 are at Fenway, mind you.
Well, makes sense. Right-handed hitter.
Right. He's dead pull, so it helps.
Yeah. So after this, Kinsler would walk. How uninspiring. But then he would steal second, and Nunez just got one of those perfect singles. Like this, you had 3 guys chasing it, and it fell directly in between all 3, and this allowed Kinsler to score. And that would be it. Now,
for Kinsler,
mention
too.
That
was the play.
Yeah.
That was the play.
Kinsler came up lame on after he crossed the plate. And we'll get to it in a second, how this just turned this from being one of the most ridiculous series to begin with to just what the hell. Like, I don't know what's happening. But Severino would finally get out of the first inning with 33 pitches.
And 3 earned runs.
So, yeah, Kinsler goes out on that play. And this puts Mitch Moreland in at first. He was initially out of the game. Didn't start. You have right fielder Mookie Betts at second base.
Yes!
And first baseman Steve Pearce in right field. What? What? This was insane. This was just, like, you literally swapped an infielder and an outfielder. And we're just like, yeah, so what about it?
Do something about it. No, but like Mookie made a nice play. The first batter of the inning.
The very first batter.
It's a missile up the middle. I mean, granted, I think a normal second baseman probably just fields that on his feet, but he slid.
Yeah, he flopped on it.
He slid. He fielded it and made a pretty strong throw to first base. I mean, but it's funny because they talked about it after the game was over, and they were like, he's been taking ground balls at third. When Devers went down, he basically begged Alex Cora to put him at third base. But
God, could you imagine?
Like Mookie always says he's just trying, work on his arm. He's just having fun during BP. But he's actually doing that for a reason, and it's for situations like that when you don't have another second baseman, and you got to put him at second.
Could you imagine what that lineup would look like if you have Mookie starting on the infield?
It would
not only would you get, you'd still have Benny and Martinez in because Martinez would just take right field. You'd have Bradley for his defense in center, and you'd have Steve Pearce and Mitch Moreland in the game. Right. That's a power lineup.
Yeah, that lineup would be huge, but the only issue is the defense would be significantly worse on both the infield and the outfield. Hopefully, we don't have to run into... Mookie Betts is not a second baseman. There is a reason they moved him to the outfield.
Third base.
Third base.
I don't think you can do much worse at third than we've already been doing.
That is true, but I don't know. But that's a power lineup. If you have Devers at third base, you just remove Pearce or Nunez.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they'd be fine with virtually any lineup that they put out there at this point. I mean, because we've seen it over the course of the entire year. It doesn't really matter who plays; they'll win.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like last year, they had to have a certain lineup, or they wouldn't win. This year, it's like, oh, we can put Blake Swihart at third base, and we're gonna win the game because we're the Red Sox, and that's how we do.
Yeah, all these changes just made this game like, what? And at this point, I kind of thought, okay, so we've had to switch around so much. I don't know how this is gonna work, but Porcello would go out and get another 1-2-3 inning, picks up his first strikeout. And only did it on 10 pitches here. Just like to point that out and keep an eye on that going forward. Bottom of the second, nothing happened. Mookie got a double. Benny walked. It was here that they announced that Kinsler would be day-to-day with hamstring tightness. I haven't checked since. Has that been upgraded, downgraded? Is he?
It was by the end
still
of the
day-to-day, or is he DL?
After the game, it was announced that it was actually a grade, or whatever the most mild hamstring strain is. That's what he was diagnosed with, and it was a 10-day DL stint. But like I alluded to when we were talking during the last game, was thankfully for the Red Sox, all three of their hamstring strains, because they apparently don't stretch before games. And Devers, Swihart, and Kinsler are all 10 days, and they're going to get activated on the 10th day. Like, Kinsler's already back to, I think, taking BP and stuff like that. And Devers is already on his rehab assignment. Mind you, he clubbed a home run last night. Like, I saw the video, and I don't think it's landed yet. It was hit so far.
So, now you know what I am gonna go about it this way. Andujar crushes one onto Lansdowne Street, and that would make it 3-1.
Right.
But then Rick Porcello would go 21 straight batters. I was gonna wait and just let it play out and say this at the end, but you know what? It's just too impressive to wait. 21 straight New York Yankee batters. No hits.
Yeah.
He was absolutely dominant in this game.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us picked him to have the best start of the weekend.
No.
I mean, I picked the guy who pitched the next game, and we'll talk about that.
You were pretty fucking close.
And we'll get to that, but yeah, I mean, there's not much left to talk about in the game other than the fact that Xander Bogaerts, after missing a couple of games, was back in. He was his offensive replacement, I believe, the 7th inning. So they wound up putting.
Yeah, they didn't let him take a
They had him at
didn't let him
short.
take an at-bat.
Yeah, they had him at short. They moved Holt to second, Mukio to right, and then they took Pierce out. But yeah, that's probably the only thing other than the Porcello outing worth noting that was of utmost importance. And the fact of the matter is, Rick Porcello threw that complete game, retired the 21 straight to end it after the home run by Andujar.
Yeah.
86 pitches in total.
Yep.
Like the last, and it's funny because I remember looking at the ESPN stats and info on Twitter, and I don't remember if it was the last Red Sox to do it or the last pitcher in baseball to do it. But he's the first. I'm just going to say, for sake of the argument, Red Sox, just so I know it's 100% accurate. Rick Porcello was the last person to do exactly what he did on Friday night. So, and that was in 2016 in his magical Cy Young season. But
yeah,
he was great, and it only pisses me off because I picked the guy who started game 3 to have the best start of the weekend, and I guess the only thing I can say that he did better was he had a better ERA for the day. But
yeah.
But Porcello was amazing, and if that's any indication of how the second half's going to go for him, look out, because the Sox have a ton of arms they can throw at you now.
Hell, you can look at this entire series and say that about any of the guys who started. Maybe not Brian Johnson, but at least he still got a win.
And like we both said, that he pitched a lot better than his stat line showed. I mean, the 11 strikeouts, he just got beat by 3 homers. And it just happens sometimes, but he pitched well. He pitched well enough for the win, and he pitched pretty well. I thought he pitched better than the 5 runs allowed indicated.
Yeah, so the only real thing of note that would happen afterwards was Mitch Moreland hits one past the shift that allowed JD Martinez to score after JD would reach on a double, and it's already been well noted that Porcello would go the rest of the distance, or would go the distance, and not give up any runs, not give up any more hits to complete a one-hitter facing just 1 over the minimum, which is just insane to think against the Yankees.
Even though they didn't have Judge and Sanchez, but that lineup is still very proven with Hicks, Gregorius, lineup. Torres, Stanton. Even Romine, he's been good all year for them. He's been better than Sanchez has. Like, they have an Andujar. They have a pretty good lineup. It just, Porcello was insane how unmatched he was in that game.
Yeah, the way Porcello was pitching, the way he was locating the curve, the dip he had on his changeup, I don't think anybody could have hit him that night.
Except Andujar.
I don't care if Judge and Sanchez. Well, yeah, I don't care if Judge and Sanchez are in that lineup. I don't think anybody else is hitting him.
No, that was the Cy Young Rick Porcello that we've been waiting to see since obviously he won it. That was the first outing of the year that I really and I texted you after the game and I was like, that was better than any of Sale's starts. Not even just this year. I think of the course of his Red Sox career. That was better than any start I've seen from a Red Sox pitcher in the last 2 years.
That was just one of the best starts I've seen, period.
Yeah.
Even above no-hitters in perfect games. Like, this was just
it's funny because
pure dominance.
The final out, the way the crowd reacted, the way Porcello reacted, the way the team reacted, you would have thought he threw a no-hitter.
I want to get to that because, you know what, for everybody who says that, you know, baseball the old-fashioned way is dead and everybody just wants to see offense and no one cares about pitchers' duels. They care about, 10-9 games or 15-7 like we had on Thursday. Just listen to the ovation that Porcello got, not when he won the game, because that was massive too, but just for coming out in the 9th inning. Because they had 2 guys warming. Actually, it might have just been 1. I don't know. They had guys warming in the pen, but they let Porcello go, and the crowd went nuts. He stepped out of the dugout and got a standing ovation before he even finished the complete game. So don't sit there, and I don't want to hear again that nobody cares about good pitching anymore.
It was just, and talk about going from one extreme to another. And I remember when we were doing the preview, I was saying how it could go, game 1 could be either a surprising pitcher's duel, or it could be a barn burner, and it turned into a barn burner, and then you go into game 2, and then you have Rick Porcello looking like an absolute freaking beast out there. He let all the nuts hang that night. He was just absolutely unbelievable. 9 strikeouts, and when you think of a guy who has 9 strikeouts over the course of a complete game, you'd probably think he was touching near 100 pitches, maybe 105, maybe 110. 86.
Yep.
86 pitches. Now that's just impressive. Like no matter how you look at it, that's just an impressive outing. Even with the hit and the home run allowed, it's just.
Yeah, it's such a shame too, because he's so close to a no-hitter.
He almost
doesn't even get the shutout.
He almost threw a no-hitter in the beginning of the year against the Yankees. I'm pretty sure he had like 7 no-hit innings, and then he gave up a double, or it might have been 6 no-hit innings, and he gave up a double to Judge. But yeah.
But he's so close to this no-hitter, and unfortunately doesn't walk away with even a shutout, but still a complete game.
Absolutely.
Basically went out there and got his own save, because it was a save situation in the 9th, but they rolled with the hot hand rather than go to Kimbrel. So just real quick, 9 innings, only 1 earned, only the 1 hit, no walks, obviously the hit batsman, but that was on an 0-2 count, so it doesn't go in as a walk, and 9 strikeouts, 6 of them swinging, 86 pitches. Meanwhile, Severino, who would get the loss, went 5 2/3 with 4 earned, 7 hits, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. But you know what? Those numbers are a bit deceiving, because after that first inning, Severino really settled in. And he was still giving up hits and walks, but he looked like a much better pitcher than he did in that first.
Worth noting, and I know you talked about before the game, you mentioned their ERAs and said to pay attention to those numbers. Severino's went from 2.94 to 3.08 after that start. Porcello's went from 4.03 down to 3.84.
Yep, that's where I was going, is the... You had one starter coming in with an ERA in the 4s, the other with an ERA in the 2s, and they both ended up in the 3s by the end of the night.
Right. And I think it's funny. I think it is worth mentioning. After Alex Cora gets ejected from the game, obviously, he's still pissed off after the game, even though they won. Porcello was dominant, and the team responded well to his ejection. They asked him if he thought the tensions were over after that game.
Oh yeah.
And he drops the money quote. I don't know. Is 4 runs in under 6 innings a quality? He goes, gave up 4 earned runs in less than 6 innings. Is that a quality start? And then he just got up and I was rolling laughing at that. I thought, Alex Cora has just been absolutely. It's just been so much fun watching his press conferences, listening to him talk. Because when he's not angry, he's one of the more intelligent minds in baseball. Because you can listen to him talk baseball all day, and you're like, I'm going to learn something pretty much every single news story he brings up. And then when he gets angry, he's like low key hilarious. Like the stuff he does is just hilarious.
He is the exact opposite of Bill Belichick, but has the potential to bring in almost as much success.
Yeah.
If this year is anything to go by, we got a new dynasty in Boston. Yeah. Well, we have a revived dynasty in Boston.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, because Belichick's all about the we're just looking forward. Focus on this season. None of the other ones mattered. Who is Malcolm Butler? Oh, right. Yeah, Tom's good.
Tom's so good at throwing football.
What? We were talking about why you sat Butler. That's probably what he says at restaurants. They come to take his order. He's like, I'm just focused on breakfast.
I'm on to dessert.
It's 6 o'clock at night. We stopped serving breakfast 8 hours ago. But then you have Cora, who's sitting here and he's just totally vocal, totally open, and not afraid to throw shade. And
he is hilarious.
It's amazing. So they're two completely different people in front of the cameras. But God, if this year's anything to go by, Cora's could be in that conversation with Belichick as who is the best manager in Boston sports history. I'm not gonna say that yet, but
probably a good idea. Probably a good idea.
I'm probably never going to say
Belichick's been doing it for 17 years, putting Cora in that conversation after
Cora
3/4 of a year. Not even one yet.
Then again, if the Red Sox break the MLB record for wins in a season, which they have the potential to do...
They're on pace to finish 4 games short of tying the record. But they also have 25 games against basically AAA rosters for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
And the only thing is it'll be an asterisk because they played more games to get there, but whatever.
No, they didn't.
The
The Mariners' record was 116, and that was in the
Anyway, I thought it was 116 and 36.
no. It was 116.
46?
Yeah, that was that record is only like 20 years old.
Oh,
I think it was. I think it happened in '96. I think that was the year.
Oh, I must have read it wrong when I looked it up then. So never mind.
Disregard.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna mention the Yankees bullpen that came in because the game was over at that point.
Yep.
Once you knew Porcello was going the distance, it didn't matter.
Every out, Eck and Remy were like, he is absolutely dealing, and they were right.
I mean, you don't sit down 21 straight batters from the team with the second best record in baseball
by accident
without dealing.
Yeah.
That whatever. I can English.
English goodly.
Yes. So I guess we should move to Game 3 instead of just gushing about Porcello for the rest of this. But it didn't stop.
Nope.
The dominant arms did not stop because we had Nate Eovaldi on the mound, and he came in off a 7-inning start against Minnesota. He didn't give up any runs, and I wanted to take these inning by inning, but I'm just gonna jump ahead to the third here, or actually to the fourth, because he would give up a leadoff single in the fourth, and it would be to Brett Gardner. It would be the first Yankee in 31 at-bats to reach base. They had 30 straight outs between...
Get a hit. I'm pretty sure he walked Hicks in the second inning. It was... And then he got a double play.
Oh, he did, yeah. Okay, so 24. Oh, that's why. It was a double play, so that messed me up.
Yeah, they had faced the minimum since the third inning of the second game of the series.
Okay, so no hits in
31.
31 at-bats, 32 plate appearances. So, just insane. No, not even. Still 30. I don't know.
Math is not a strong suit.
It's summer, and I graduated.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Right.
But yeah, so the Red Sox would keep it up, and I kind of considered at this point kind of cheating a bit on my MVP pick and just saying the combined efforts of the first baseman for the Red Sox, because Mitch Moreland in the first inning would clobber a 2-run homer that put the Sox up.
All they needed.
What did you say?
I said all they needed. I mean, they got another home run from JD, which made it, I believe, 3-0, and then they got. I'm trying to remember what the fourth run was.
It was the ridiculously close. I wouldn't have even challenged it myself. Ground rule double that Leon hit.
Yeah, and the Yankees fans were crying about how that shouldn't have even been a double if it was ruled fair. But the ball literally went in the crowd. The ball hit a fan who was not even in the first row of those seats. It was the second row.
It's a textbook. That's the definition of a ground rule double.
But
how are you even going to argue that?
But yeah, yeah, it's just
So that play. We'll jump into that. Yeah, JD hit his 33rd homer. Whatever. JD did a JD thing. But let's go to that. Leon has Nunez on second, which actually he reached or he moved up because he was only on first.
Yeah,
so we almost got screwed, but Brock Holt would end up getting a single that would put him on second. And this just was insane. So Sandy Leon hits a beautifully placed ball right down the left field line. It's ruled foul, and at first glance, and almost every other one except for the most important one, this ball looked foul.
Right.
But they showed it from one angle, and they zoomed in, and in super slow-mo, you can see it lands on the very outer edge of the chalk. And if the ball's touching the chalk, that's fair ground.
Right.
So, after I don't know how long, but it felt like 20 minutes. It was probably only 6, if even. After a really long, really tense challenge, they finally come back and say, yes, this is fair. And because the ball one-hopped and went right into the stands, despite what Yankees fans want to believe, that was clearly in the stands, they gave him the ground rule double, and Nunez comes across to score to make it 4-0 at the time. okay, when you saw it, take me through this. When you saw it happen at first, and then when you saw some of the replays, did you know that it was going to be fair?
Um, so I watched it on Fox, and I don't know if you watched it on Fox or if you watched it on Nesson.
No, I was Nesson.
Okay, so Fox doesn't show the good replays. So through every single review, every single replay they showed, I was like, "There's no way they can overturn that." And then after the replays were done being shown, and then they were like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we got we're just gonna show you the line." You could see that there was like a little mark on the edge when where the ball was, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's a fair ball!"
Yeah.
And it was like right before they came out with the ruling, so I was like, "Oh yeah, that was a fair ball. That's gonna be a double." It's like, wow, Sandy Leon with a big hit. That's something that I've never said before in my entire life.
And that was my thing too, because at first I'm watching it and I'm going, "Oh man, that's foul." I wouldn't even bother challenging it. But you know what? We're up 3 anyway. You might as well waste the challenge on this and try to put us in a better spot. And they showed that thing of the line, and I'm assuming it's the same exact one that you saw. And you see all the dirt on it, and my first thought is, "Oh well, that's fair." But then I'm thinking about it, and they show the replay again. I'm like, but when the ball hits the dirt, it's gonna spray it around, and obviously you're not gonna notice a splash dirt on dirt. But then they showed it from, it was like a camera sort of behind home, but not really. It was a weird. It's hard to describe where it was. It was obviously on the first base side of home, pointing down the left field line, and you see that where the ball lands and where the white meets the brown is the exact same spot. So this literally was the last stitch of the baseball that was touching ground hit the last speck of white sand.
Yeah, it was perfectly placed.
Like, wow. Thank God for replays, even if they do take forever and totally suck.
We're talking about all the offensive plays that have gone on, but like we have yet to mention how dominant Nathan Eovaldi was.
Well, I was just gonna get there because he.
If it weren't for Porcello, I would have been right about the best outing of the series. Nathan Eovaldi, absolutely. And I remember saying that was the game I was going to circle, was the Saturday night game. Not just because it was going to be Eovaldi versus Hap. Obviously, Hap went on the disabled list with hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Literally like 10 minutes after we published the episode.
Yeah. But Nathan Eovaldi went out there and he twirled another gem. His second shutout start as a Red Sox. He has yet to allow an earned run. Or he's not to allow a run.
Any run.
7 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, and 2 starts. 15 shutout innings.
Yep.
He's been.
When was the last pitcher to come in, especially mid-season for the Red Sox, and pitch this well?
I can't name one. Mid-season? I don't know. But the last mid-season acquisition starting pitcher for the Red Sox that actually had any sort of success on a winning team was Jake Peavy. And he wasn't even this good.
No, he really was kind of.
He was okay, average. And then in the postseason he kind of faltered. But like he was good. But Nathan Eovaldi has been like, oh, Dave Dombrowski wants to put me in the bullpen when all the guys come back. Yeah, right, guy.
Let me go out there and be the best starter on the team.
Yeah, let me go out there and just completely dominate. And oh my god, I remember absolutely losing my shit. Oh, sorry. There's my first slip.
Yeah, we got the bleep.
There's my one slip up of the show, but his cutter is it's just unbelievable.
It was great.
And like I've been saying this for a while, but his cutter is like Mariano Rivera's. I mean, obviously he's not as good as Rivera, but he throws it 94, 95 miles an hour, and it has the same movement. But the last one he threw, which I believe was to Austin Romine in the 8th inning, was like the sexiest pitch I have seen thrown in forever. A front door cutter, perfectly placed on the low and inside corner. I literally stood up and started clapping when it happened. And I was sitting in my room. And I was like, that was beautiful. I was like, let's go. That was beautiful.
He was absolutely dominant. I only saw probably from like the 4th or 5th inning on. It was, again, I had to make real money, and
you don't work at a fast food joint.
Unfortunately, you can't really do that with this yet. So, but I still saw enough of this start to know, Eovaldi's a pretty big deal, and he's another one that's kind of like Pierce, where it's like, okay, Eovaldi, I know a little bit about him.
He's okay. I mean, been good.
His story
Not
was more
great.
famous than he was.
Yeah, he's good, not
But now
great,
he's come
but
in.
wow.
Now he's come in, and we could have an argument right now over who is the best pitcher on the Red Sox, and Evaldi's name comes up.
Second.
Okay,
Nobody.
yeah, Chris Sale's running away with it.
Sale's the best,
He's
but
hurt,
like second. But yeah, active starting pitcher on the Red Sox. The discussion is probably between David Price and Nathan Evaldi. And normally, when you put those two in the same discussion, you're hoping David Price is running away with it. And he's been great since the All-Star break, but Evaldi's Evaldi's been one of the best pitchers in baseball since he came to the Sox. And actually, if you base it on ERA, he's been the best pitcher in baseball since he came to the Red Sox. So it's crazy how great he's been, and he flew under the radar. A guy that calls Jalen Beeks.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Beeks. Like I remember being excited when he got called up, and he was just nothing. But like, and so you figure, they got Nathan Evaldi. He's got decent numbers on Tampa Bay, so he's gonna come to Boston. Obviously, those numbers are probably not gonna get any better. But wow, they did though.
How wrong we were.
Oh, how wrong we were. I want to see what his updated ERA is really quick.
It's a 3.38.
It's dropped almost a full.
I'm looking at it right now. He was a 4.26 when he came to Boston, and through 15 shutout innings, he's dropped it down to a 3.38.
I believe his current shutout streak. Mind you, the Red Sox have the top 3 shutout streak or consecutive inning streak for shutout innings in baseball, and it's Sale has the best at I believe it's 21 1/3, maybe it's 22 1/3. Prices went down. Prices is over, obviously, but then Nathan Evaldi's sitting there with I believe it's 18 1/3 shutout innings in a row. So he's been insane. He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, can't say enough about how amazed I am that that he came in as a starter when we really didn't need any more starters, and he has more than proven he belongs.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
8 innings here, 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, and that's really my only complaint is, why aren't you striking out more guys? But if you're not giving up any runs, I don't care if you have 0 strikeouts.
Exactly. Thank you. Now you're not the only one that has said that in my presence over the course of the year. I had to live with that all spring. Oh my. But yeah, just shameless plug of my own stats.
I do want to say one thing though, and that is, you let Porcello go. I know he had a much lower pitch count,
right?
But he'd already given up a run, and it was a save situation in that game. But here you're up 4-0, and I know you don't want Kimbrel out there, or don't want Kimbrel to sit and miss a bunch of days, but God, how sweet would have been if they could have finished at least the team shutout, but nope, gotta get Kimbrel in there, and God, he made me nervous. He made me kind of want us to not re-sign him at the end of the year, because he would go out there and give up a run. Luckily, it would be the only one, despite loading the bases.
It was gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
That would have been one of those games that if he wound up giving up a grand slam to Greg Bird, you would have looked at that game and been like, that is the worst. That's one of those games that can sink a team if you lose that game.
Yeah. Instead, that happened on Sunday, and it was the other way around.
Right.
So, using that excellent segue, let's talk about it. Sunday Night Baseball. David Price taking on Masahiro Tanaka. Price coming in 11-6, 3.97 ERA, but pitching ridiculously well since the All-Star break. Coming in, he'd had, 14 1/3 official innings, 15 1/3, with
14
only
1/3, one earned run, yeah.
Only 1 earned run. Meanwhile, Tanaka came in 9-2 on the year with a 3.84 ERA, but not necessarily as good. Now, this game was exclusively on ESPN, so there was no NESN alternative. And
you had to listen to Jessica Mendoza, people. I'm sorry.
She wasn't the one that I was.
Oh no, A-Rod was worse. A-Rod was much worse.
Because of course you've got
That Yankee bias was absurd.
A Yankee in the booth for a Red Sox Yankees game on national
He had a
TV.
slip up, and he said "we" when referring to the Yankees, and I was
Yep.
like, "A-Rod,
Yep.
A-Rod, you done did it!"
Even local broadcasters don't do that.
Yeah, and Jerry Remy played for the Red Sox, and he works for Nesson. Like he
So
if
does
there's
Eck.
and there's literally anybody, he could say that about anything, and he has permission to because he works for Nesson, not ESPN.
Yep.
And he had the slip up.
Thank God he got called out for it.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt was like, "Oh, we."
I'm too tired. It's late. I was like, shut up.
But my first note for this game is before a pitch was even thrown, we're already hearing the judge excuse.
Oh my God.
Already. And it's from A-Rod, of course.
Yeah,
The Yankee. The guy who's still referring to the team as we.
On the bright side, he didn't say Judge and Sanchez. I can believe
he did just say Judge.
I can go with English. I can accept saying Judge being out is a viable reason why the Yankees aren't competing as well.
Yeah.
Or hitting as
But
well.
he was saying it's the reason that they weren't winning. Look at the scores, Alex. 15-7, 4-1, 4-1.
Right.
You would need home runs every at-bat. We've already talked. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, especially since nobody was getting on base in the 2 games prior. So
this was just...
yeah.
Pissed me off.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Luckily, Price would get me back into it, despite actually having a pretty ugly first inning.
It was gross. Oh my God, I was scared for him because I remember saying how I felt like he was going to have a good outing, and he needed to have a good outing, and with no Judge or Sanchez, I used the Judge and Sanchez excuse. With no Judge and Sanchez, he had to, and there's absolutely zero reason for him to not go out there and pitch well. And then he goes out and loads the bases in the first inning. Luckily, Luke Voit is not a very imposing threat with the bases loaded. Because he got a low and in fastball that I think a lot of people probably turn on and at least put it off the monster, if not over it. And he had a dinky little check swing back to the mound, and I cried a little bit. It was embarrassing. But
yeah, so I'm not normally one to really take note of this, and I hadn't in any of the other games. But it was so apparent to me that I did start taking note. And the first inning was 6 batters for the Yankees. Price only got ahead on 1. And he struck the guy out.
Yeah, it was Torres.
Yeah. So, just find the damn strike zone. Stop dancing around these guys. They're already weakened because we've beaten them up for 3 games. Just go after them. Meanwhile, Tanaka comes out, and he goes 2 for 2. The first 2 batters, he gets first pitch strikes. Granted, the second first pitch strike ended up being another double from Benny Two Bags. And then once Pierce got behind, he ended up striking out. And then JD would strike out as well.
JD had a tale of 2 games that game. Like, he was bad.
Yeah, he wasn't that good in the series overall.
I mean,
he had the home run.
he
had
had
a couple
the
RBIs,
big game
but
1. I mean, he was JD.
Everybody
average.
had a big game 1.
He was JD average. Like, he was not. He was better than average, but he wasn't very JD like.
Yeah.
So yeah,
entirely accurate. So yeah, 2 strikeouts for Tanaka, just 1 for Price. Price would finally get a first pitch strike on the 3rd batter of the 2nd inning, so we go 2 for 9. And Mookie Betts in the first batter of the inning made an excellent catch. Well, it wasn't really an excellent catch. It was all right, but on the warning track, it was a hard hit ball. That's why it's important. But Price would get out of the second, only 10 pitches, which is good because the first inning he threw 20, and it was like, this is going to be a short outing.
right.
But ended up just 30 pitches after 2. You can live with that.
Right.
And Xander Bogaerts would get an infield single that really could have gone either way. You could have either ruled it a single or an error, but
that's one of those hits that you only give him a hit because the ball was hit 108 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, that was an absolute screamer.
Yeah, he just crushed it. Just took a bad bounce and close play, but single.
Yep.
Now Mitch Moreland was up right behind him and absolutely crunched the ball right up the middle into the glove because of the shift.
I mean, in all seriousness, I think if they're in the shift or they're not in the shift, that probably is still a lineup because it looked like it was right around where the shortstop was.
Right up the middle.
It looked like it was going to get. I thought, in all seriousness, in double play depth,
dead up the middle.
In double play depth, I feel like that's actually still a pretty catchable ball. Then
not with how hard he hit it. If it was a soft liner, maybe, but he ripped this one. The one in the second, he ripped it, but right into a glove. Whatever.
The Yankees, whoever designs the Yankee shift, should be getting a raise or getting some more recognition because the Yankees are like literally always in the right position in the shift. Like if there's a ball hitting the shift, it's right at a guy.
I hate the shift. Not moving forward. It's still the same inning. This is because I had already started down this path. I kept going, and Tanaka ended up missing the first pitch on every batter this inning after Bogarts. Actually, no, I think it was every batter. No, he got the first pitch on Bogarts, but then missed on the next 3, and it was 4 of the last 5 that he missed the first pitch after going 2 for 2. The reason that I was even taking note of the stat at this point is because really nothing else was happening. Bogarts was caught stealing. Nunez got an infield single, came up kind of lame, ended up being alright, and then Holt lined out to center to end it. Price still can't locate the ball on first pitch, but he ends up with a 1-2-3 inning on just 15 pitches. Go to the bottom of the third. Red Sox would again get hits, but couldn't get any runs. Leone would strike out Mookie, and Benintendi singled. Pierce would strike out, and then JD I think it was on the first pitch, might have been the second, took a huge swing, and if he connected, that thing was gone, but he just missed it and would end up striking out. This was a long inning, 24 pitches with only 2 hits, but I guess 3 strikeouts will do that to you.
Yeah.
Price finally finds the zone in the 4th. He ends up losing the zone. When Voit comes up, he walks him, but Garner strikes out, so Yankees still can't do anything. Red Sox don't do anything in the 4th either. This was almost a 1-2-3, but Bogarts walked. And then in the 5th, Austin Romine would get on base, and Robinson would play a sac bunt. And it was, first of all, a beautiful bunt.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just so weird because I remember it might have been the 1st or 2nd inning, but there was a runner on, and it seemed like every time there was a runner on first, A-Rod was like, "Oh, you got to bunt here. Like, you got to bunt and move up." I'm like, first of all, this isn't the National League, and he's not a pitcher, so no, you don't have to bunt here. Like, let the guy swing. And then he said something about, it was in the 1st inning. I'm like, dude, it's the beginning of the game. Just calm down. Let's see how things are going to play out. JD comes up, or JD's on deck. He got, no, JD was up. He's like, if I'm in charge here, I'm walking him. I'm just putting him on. I'm not even wasting pitches. Like, it's the 1st inning. It's the 1st inning, and you're already talking about intentional walks?
Well, the thing is, they had Benintendi on second base, and they were talking, I don't think he meant, like, actually, I think he meant, like, you can pitch around him and, like, hope he chases.
No, he was saying he was saying don't waste the stressful pitches. I'm like, they're not even really that stressful. It's the 1st inning.
Yeah, but, like, I think when you look at how badly the Yankees have been when it comes to getting runs across the board the last 2 games, with David Price on the mound, who's historically the best pitcher of the 3 guys that they were facing after Johnson, or historically the best pitcher they were facing in the series. You have to figure that, like, you got to make sure every single run's precious. So what you do is you play the numbers. JD entering the game was 7 for 14 with 3 home runs off Tanaka. So you pitch around. You may not just put him on base, but you don't give him a strike, and he didn't. And then JD wound up striking out anyway. And then Bogarts has been historically really bad against Tanaka in his career. So
yeah, I forgot that it happened. I'm listening to it. I'm like, you are an idiot. It's the 1st inning.
Yeah.
Like, and JD wasn't even that hot in the series. Like we said, he was JD average, so he was
better than average, but not JD Martinez level.
Right. But I wasn't,
which is crazy because he had like 3 doubles and a homer.
Yeah, I know.
in the series.
But like, I wasn't like, whoa, JD's on deck, like, yay. I was kind of like, all right, so he might do something, but I mean, he's probably gonna strike out on a pitch low and away,
And he did.
and he did almost every time this game. It's like I could see if he was having a series like Pierce was, and then you're talking about the intentional walk in the first inning. But
Right.
like, come on, dude. Meanwhile, by that logic, another guy you should be intentionally walking is Mookie Betts, and because they didn't, and whoa, why would they pitch to him? He hits a homer in the fifth, makes it 1-0.
Absolutely spanked. I remember when it happened, my dad goes, that ball's got to be at least 430. And it wound up being 437 feet and 106 miles an hour off the bat. Like, Mookie Betts has hit some majestic home runs this year, but I don't think he's hit one that far. He absolutely obliterated that ball.
That was absolutely crushed. And I don't know when this happened, so we'll just bring it up now, but Matt Vasgersian hates exit velocity. Because Stanton ripped a single at 122 miles an hour. And Matt Vasgersian, when that number comes up, he just goes, "It was only one base."
Well, yeah, because exit velo doesn't mean jack if it's a single. I mean, like, exit velo does help.
Yeah, but it's still like it's like that's not really the point of it, though. It's kind of one of those things. If you like, look at how strong this dude is.
Yeah,
Vasgersian's just like, nah. It felt to me like he was trying to offset the obvious bias of Rodriguez by slightly leaning towards Boston.
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but like it's only one hit.
Yeah, it's
only one base. So that cracked me up, and I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, yeah, but 122, that's impressive. I don't care where it lands. It's still a great feat, but
right.
Yeah. So the Red Sox would get one in the fifth. And in the sixth, it was evident that Price really had settled in despite giving up a walk. He had 2 strikeouts, both of them swinging, only 19 pitches. And then we get to the seventh, and before
bad by Cora.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. What I wanted to see from this inning, because Price had a relatively high pitch count heading in. I think he was at like 95 pitches through 6.
I think it was 97. I could be wrong, but I think it was 97.
It was mid to high 90s. I'm like, okay, but he's pitching well enough. He just got 2 strikeouts last inning. I don't blame Cora for putting Price back out. I would have done the exact same thing. I was hoping that he put Price back out.
So was I.
Where I differ from Cora was, and I was texting with my cousin at this point, and I said to him, if I'm Cora, I put Price out, but the very next base runner he gives up, I pull him. That
is exactly what I was saying. I was saying you give him Gardner, because lefty on lefty, that should favor Price. But I think it was evident after Gardner that he was done after he gave up the single, but Cora left him out there. Yeah. And then I think Price basically was like, this is my last batter, regardless of if I get a double play or whatever. He wound up walking Romine, but he threw over to first base for the first time the entire game. And he had runners on all game. But I think him throwing over to first base was his way of saying, Cora, come get me, because I'm done.
But it's just...
It's a shame, because he pitched like Johnson did in Game 1. Price pitched way better than his stat line showed. He got screwed in the 7th inning.
Well,
he got hung out to dry.
Because of Cora, and we've been talking rightly so about how great Cora has been.
He managed that 7th inning.
Bad decision.
He managed that 7th inning like a fan would. He was like, I need David Price to have a big outing against the Yankees. I need it like I need air to breathe. But, after Gardner, he should have probably gone to go get him. Because I think with Hembree, putting him out there against Shane Robinson, I know Shane Robinson's a .214 hitter, and he's going to bunt. But Hembree is so erratic, you cannot have him go out there and pitch against a guy who's 100% bunting. If you put him out there against Romine, while he's having a good year, is still not a very selective hitter. I mean, you could probably get him to chase one, maybe a couple sliders, get ahead 0-2, maybe get him to hit into a double play, and then there you go. You can close the book on Price. But instead, he lets Price go out there and walk Romine. Then Hembree goes out there and walks Robinson, and then all the wheels came off with the rocket hit by Hicks that Bogarts.
Yeah.
99 times out of 100, he turns that into a 6-3 double play. Because he was right over second base. It was hit so hard that it was almost impossible for Hicks to beat that. But Bogarts completely whiffs on it, 2-run score, and then that's when Sox fans were starting to panic as if that they hadn't won the first 3 games of the series. But it started to look ugly. It started to look ugly, and I can understand why people were getting upset. I was one of those people that was like, obviously you hate to lose the game 4, especially when you have your best pitcher on the mound that's healthy. But you won the first 3 games. Being 7.5 up on the Yankees after the series is not terrible. I was one of those people I wasn't accepting defeat, but I was basically saying if they lost, it wouldn't be the end of the world, considering they had already won the first 2 games. But Hembree just didn't have it, and his ERA against the Yankees for the season's over 14. So putting him in there didn't make much sense. And I know, and this is where I tweeted this out, and people were really confused by it. When I was playing the blame game for the 7th inning, I started with Cora, because obviously I think he deserves most of the brunt for that inning. But my second bullet point was not even Heath Hembree. I bet you can't guess who it was.
Let's see. Who botched that inning?
I'm going to give you a hint and say it wasn't even someone that played in that game.
Oh. Okay.
If you give up, I will tell you.
I'm just going to take a shot in the dark because because he ended up playing in the game. Never mind. Yeah, I got no one.
Craig Kimbrell. That was the second bullet because him pitching so badly in Game 3 made him unavailable for the Game 4. Therefore, your setup man in Matt Barnes becomes your closer, your 7th inning guy, and Tyler Thornburg is your 8th inning guy. So you have no 7th inning guy. So you have to get creative with it. And I think if you put in Brazier in that spot, he may have been a better result than it wound up being. But they put in Hembree because he had probably the most success in high leverage spots other than those 2 guys because Kimbrell wasn't available.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
So Hembree goes out there in a spot that he's probably not familiar with. I mean, he's familiar with going out there with 2 outs and going and getting 1 out. But going out there with no outs is a different territory for him.
He basically had to pitch a clean inning with the bases already first and second.
Yeah, so he was in a position he wasn't very accustomed to against a team he's never had success against.
Yeah.
I personally would have gone to Brazier over Hembree, so that's also why I put...
which ended up being the right decision.
Because then he wound up going out there and he allowed an inherited runner to score on a sac fly, but he went an inning and a third, an inning and 2/3 of shutout relief, other than the inherited runner he allowed to score. But he was good, and it was huge. I mean, the relief that got after Hembree was gigantic, and it proved so in the end. Because I know after Brazier, he got a scoreless 8 from... Hey, come on.
Don't jump too far ahead. This is this is a game we need to cover play by play. But yeah, this isn't even hindsight either. Like, this is something that I was saying in the moment. Let Price out for the 7th, but the next base runner, because even if he gives up 1 base runner, okay, worst case, he ends up in a spot with a no decision.
Yeah, with 1 run allowed.
If you put him out there, which they did, and he ended up putting a second guy on base, and then the bullpen comes in and blows it like they did, he goes from having a really great start to, even with, if he had the 1 earned, 6 innings, 1 earned against the Yankees as David Price, that's a hell of a start.
Right.
But instead, he goes out there, ends up 2 earned, and is on the hook for the loss, and it was just ugly. So I wrote down the stat lines with every pitcher. When Price was in there, he gave up a hit and a walk on 11 pitches. Hembree only got 1 out. 3 runs, 2 of them were charged to Price. 2 inherited. 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. It took him 22 pitches for 1 out. Then Brazier comes in. He gives up the run on the sac fly. Obviously, that gets charged to Hembree. And on 5 pitches, he got the other 2 outs. So, great job from Brazier. Hembree, you suck. We've said that a lot.
Yeah.
Cora, this was a bad decision.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
People are getting on his case way too much as if this happens on a regular basis. But
No, no, this is
this happens.
uncharacteristic.
This happens over the course of a season. There's going to be games where managers play or manage the game like a fan does. That happens. I mean, with Farrell last year, it was every game. This year, it happens every once in a while, and you see it sometimes backfire, sometimes it doesn't. Then Sunday night it did. Yeah. But he managed the rest of the game perfectly.
So Zach Britton would come in for New York. He would give up a walk to Leon, but would get the next three guys.
He wasn't even sharp. Yeah, I mean, looking
22 pitches.
Like watching Zach Britton pitch since he became a Yankee, and he just doesn't look like Zach Britton. Like he's been having a hard time throwing strikes, and I know I think he had 2 strikeouts in the inning, right? Or was it 3?
I only have him at 1.
Only 1, but
he might have got Pierce. I didn't.
Oh no, Pierce! I remember Pierce grounded out, but
okay, so yeah, just 1.
Yeah, so he didn't look like Zach Britton. He's been throwing a lot of balls. He's walked a ton of guys, and I think he's only had 3 outings with them. But he just hasn't looked good since becoming a Yankee.
So we get to the top of the 8th. Frazier's still in here. He would give up a hit, but nothing more. And on 20 pitches would close out the inning. And then JD would get hit by a pitch in the bottom of the 8th, which, I mean, obviously he would come through and it wouldn't matter anyway. But at this point, his on-base at-home streak was on the line, and he got it in probably the most painful way possible, using a hit by pitch to extend it. Then Bogaerts would continue to screw the game up by striking out. Moreland struck out, and Nunez would get an out of his own, sending it to the 9th. And with Aroldis Chapman was at, 21 straight saves?
22.
Was it 22?
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. Oh, I guess we should mention that Tyler Thornburg, who is the best bullpen arm the Red Sox have, fight me.
Matt Barnes.
Ended up. Give it time. Gave up 2 walks. At this point, I kind of stopped caring who was up and whatever. I literally wrote, somebody walked, somebody flew out. I have no idea who those people were. Then we get to the 9th, and I admit I had written this game off. It was over.
But it wasn't.
But because I was taking notes and I knew we had to do this, I didn't go to sleep, despite the fact that the game was 4 hours old at this point, and it started at 8. So it was midnight. I'm tired. I really wanted to go to sleep, but I still had to finish my notes.
Actually, before we go on, I just wanted to say it's worth noting that Tyler Thornburg's ERA is back down to 4.66. Just wanted to throw that in there real quick. After a scoreless inning, yeah. Just want to point that out before we went on. Go ahead.
Now, my notes kind of conflict themselves, so I'm just going to double-check something real quick. But we get to the bottom of the 9th, and the very first batter, Brock Holt, strikes out. So now the Red Sox are 3 runs and 2 outs away from losing Game 4 and ending on a downer, despite an outstanding series. But then, Sandy Leon walks. And Mookie Betts walks. And at this point, I'm still like, alright. And then Benintendi, the Yankee killer, struck out.
Yeah.
3 runs and 1 out away. But then Steve Pearce walked. And that brings JD Martinez to the plate.
Yup.
And JD gets a 2 RBI single on a bullet.
BB. And it was almost caught, too. Torres got up there, and I was like, don't even tell me. Off the bat, I'm like, oh, that's not high enough. And then I saw it in center field. I was like, oh, thank God. Because he almost caught that. I would have been like, that would be such a shameful way to end the game.
And then, because baseball apparently is poetry, the game comes full circle, and Xander Bogaerts, who potentially cost David Price a win on an error, reaches first base on an error, allowing Jackie Bradley Jr. to score and tie the game. Wow. Moreland would strike out swinging and really unceremoniously end the 9th. And that would bring out your best friend, Matt Barnes.
Love Matt Barnes. Dude, the dude's been great all year. Come on. You gotta give him some credit. He's had a couple of duds.
I'm not giving him credit. I'm just
He's
saying.
been
like
better than Craig Kimbrell has been this season.
Yes. I agree.
And he went out there and he proved it in the 10th inning when he just completely dominated. I believe, I know he had the strikeout to end it, but I think he had 2 in the inning.
Nah, just
one. Okay.
Two flyouts and a strikeout.
Okay. Well, he was fantastic, and he winds up getting the win at the end. I know I'm foreshadowing, but yeah, he was dominant.
Yeah, that's not foreshadowing. That's straight up spoilers. So my notes for this are kind of funny and kind of not going to be read out in their full form. But Nunez struck out. Brock Holt grounded out. And at this point, I'm like, all right, well, better settle in because this game's going to go even longer.
Can we mention who was pitching real quick, though? I just want to. It needs to be said.
Oh yes. Again, an example of baseball mirroring poetry because Jonathan Holder replaces Aroldis Chapman.
My boy.
Yep, that happened.
Uh-huh.
So Leon would single and get to second on a wild pitch, leaving a base open for Mookie Betts. And this time, when you talk about intentional walks, it makes sense, Alex. And they end up doing that. They walk Betts. And then Tommy No Name comes in at second base.
Tony Renda?
No, his name is forever going to be Tommy No Name. I don't care if he goes on to be a 10-time MVP. His name is Tommy No Name. I don't care if it's Tony. That's the point.
Go ahead.
So Tommy No Name is in a second. And I literally wrote in my notes, I'll keep it nice, I put, who the F is this pinch runner?
I thought it was the Bat Boy. I actually thought it was the Bat Boy. Because it looked like it was just it looked like it was some makeshift jersey that they just took like fabric and threw together.
It really did. This dude did not look familiar at all. I'm sure his ma was real happy he was there.
Thanks.
But I had no idea who this guy was. Luckily, I know who the guy who was batting was. His name's Andrew Benintendi, and despite making me super nervous in the ninth, the Yankee killer came out and walked it off with a base hit past the shift. It was a slow roller, allowing Tommy No Name to come in and the Red Sox to sweep the Yankees. And God, this was okay. So this series just had it all, from the ridiculous slobber knocker that was Game 1,
yep,
to the dominant pitching in Games 2 and 3, to the epic comeback in Game 4. Like, this was baseball.
Yeah, this was a special series.
Like, God, if this is what the ALDS is going to look like, I'm nervous as hell, but I am excited. Because it's going to be entertaining.
Right. That's the only way that these two teams are going to match up, which is a shame because I feel like it's going to be the best series of the entire postseason.
Yeah. Yep. So unless the Red Sox have this catastrophic collapse and Houston takes the number 1 spot,
right?
It's only going to be 5 games instead of 7, which is probably better for our hearts, but whatever.
Yeah, and our life expectancies.
Pitching lines: David Price would go 6 innings, 2 earned, 4 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Really should have only had 1 earned, but that's a combination of bad decisions. Heath Hembry would only go a third of an inning because he's
Heath Hembry.
Yep. And the only out he got was on a strikeout. Why couldn't you just do that 2 more times, bud? Brazier was a stud. Again, no earned, just 1 hit. 1.1 2/3 innings. Thornburg came out, and despite 2 walks, he had a clean inning, and then Matt Barnes with the winning inning. Meanwhile, for the Yankees, Tanaka went 4 2/3. Worth noting, too, only Luis Severino went past the 5th inning.
That is wild.
For the Yankees. So, one of my keys was you got to get to that bullpen early, and I think having only 1 guy even in a position to possibly win the game, if the situations presented themselves, I think that's a great example of how to do that. David Robertson would go an inning and a third. Zach Britton would go an inning. Dylan Betances would go an inning. Aroldis Chapman. I mean, look at those 4 names coming out of the bullpen.
Yep.
Like,
and
Robertson,
it didn't
Britton,
even lead to a
Betances,
victory.
and Chapman, and they didn't win.
We lost. Yeah.
And Jonathan Holder.
My guy!
with
My
the
boy!
run, with the earned run, that clinched a series sweep. So in the preview, we gave out superlatives, and I know we're nearing 2 hours on this, so I'm not going to do any of the shameless plugs that I normally do at the end. You know where to find us by now if you're even listening. So let's follow up on those superlatives. For best start, I had David Price. If he got through that 7th, I was going to look pretty damn smart, because I had said 7 innings, 1 run, 5 hits. He ended up 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits. So I was 1 off on everything. You had Nate Eovaldi. I don't remember your stat line.
At 8 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, 7 strikeouts, and he went 8 innings, no runs, 4 hits, and 4 strikeouts. Or no, it was 5. But it was close. I was close there. I was definitely closer than you were, you dummy.
Yeah. I would have been real close. Damn it. Whatever.
But it was Porcello.
It's not important, but hands down, it was Rick Porcello.
Not even close. I mean, it was close, but it wasn't even close. Just based on the electricity in the crowd after he got the final out of a one-hitter, and the reaction of a no-hitter, it was insane. And I think it'd be a shame to pick anybody but him for the best start of the weekend.
Best start of the season.
Best start of the season. Best start of the last 2 years.
At least.
Probably 3.
At least for the Red Sox.
Probably 3. Might be the best start.
Yankees,
might be the best start since one of the no hitters that the Sox threw.
Yeah. For the Yankees, my best start, I had CC. Who did you pick?
My best start was Tanaka, and I think I might have actually been right.
Alright, so yeah, you got that one.
That's technically right. Just based on an earned runs perspective, he gave up only 1 run, and he looked pretty good despite his pitch count.
He looked good.
His pitch count was
absurd.
5, but his pitch count was absurdly high.
Yeah.
Because he got deep in a lot of counts.
That's more of a testament to how the Red Sox were patient rather than him missing the zone. Right. We did a worse start. I picked Johnson, and I'll take that one.
I think I picked Porcello.
I think you did. I think you did.
Because you didn't. I was close on the last 2. You
didn't want to pick.
I didn't want to pick Johnson because it was too obvious. I wanted to pick somebody.
And you thought Price was going to turn it around, so you were like, that only leaves me with Porcello because I have Eovaldi for best.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
It was a process of elimination. I'm sorry, Rick. I love you.
Terrible elimination.
I love you, Rick. Trust me, it wasn't going to be worse start because you were bad. It was going to be worse start because I felt like the other 3 were just going to be better. And
I even said that about Johnson, and yeah, from a runs perspective, it was bad, but from an overall performance, it was pretty decent.
It was Brian Johnson.
So
it was Brian Johnson, Chris Sale's love child.
So you got the Tanaka part right, but I got the
completely whiffed.
I got the worst start right.
Completely whiffed on the worst start.
For the Yankees, I had Severino for the worst start.
Which is close, but it was which was close actually, because it was either him or Chance Adams. But I feel like Chance Adams gave up 3 and 5, and Severino gave up 4 and 5 2/3. Chance Adams only left the game.
Severino gave up 3 in the first, and then gave up 1 through 4 and 2/3. So,
but I don't know.
I'm gonna stick with.
It's close.
I'm gonna stick with Adams for the worst
of the 2. Yeah, it was close.
I think. Who did you have for worst?
For worst start for the Yankees, who did I have? I don't remember.
Did you have Happ?
I did have Happ.
Because I guess technically you got that
because
dead
he
on,
didn't start.
He didn't even start.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. 3
good
for
on
4.
You.
Both of us whiffed on MVP though.
Yeah. Who do you have being the Red Sox MVP? Let's start with the Yankees one, and then we'll go overall because I don't think the overall series MVP is going to come from New York.
My series MVP for New York from the get-go was going to be Dylan Betances, but we only saw him once, so I can't really base it off of anything. I thought he was going to be huge in the series, but we only saw him for that 1 inning, even though he looked really good in it.
Yeah, 2
2
strikeouts.
strikeouts. I think he walked a guy, but
Hit by pitch.
hit by pitch. Okay, yeah, but he looked good. So I mean, I'm not way off like I was on the worst start
No.
for the Red Sox, but he definitely wasn't an MVP. He wasn't very much of it.
Yeah.
It would have probably. We'll go on. Actually, we'll just go ahead. Who was yours?
I'm pretty sure I had Stanton. I'm trying to remember if I had Stanton or Torres.
I think you did have Stanton.
Um,
No, I think you
yeah,
said.
I
I
think
think you said it would be too obvious to pick Stanton, so I think you went with Torres. Who actually had a good? Actually, no, he didn't have a good series. Never mind.
they both did all right.
Yeah, they were both
But
okay.
But for me, and I know I'm kind of doing this without any discussion, but I think the Yankees MVP for the series is Miguel Andujar.
Mine was Didi Gregorius. That was my pick after the series because from an offensive standpoint, he had the 2 home runs in Game 1. I think he knocked in the most runs on the Yankees the entire series. So I think it's pretty. That was my pick. And of course, he's always great at shortstop too. So
I just felt like Andujar was the one guy through that Yankees lineup that when he came up, especially where he had hit the homer off Porcello,
he's scary.
when he came up, every at-bat after that, I was a little nervous.
That's true.
Whereas with everybody else, I was like, all right, it was just a flash in the pan, whether you got a home run or not. Like,
Yeah, fair enough.
whatever.
Mhm.
And I felt like in all 4 games, Andujar was probably the standout for the Yankees. But who are you going for the overall MVP?
Jonathan Holder. Okay,
Right.
no, we skipped the Sox one. I had Ian Kinsler, who looked like he was going to have a big series, even though he wasn't. Obviously, he wouldn't have been the MVP anyway, just based off of a certain guy. But he was 3 for 6.
I thought you had Thornburg.
Oh no, I did have Thornburg. I had the guy who I thought should have a
Yeah.
big series, but I had Thornburg as the series MVP. And he had a shutout inning, but again, we only saw him one time, so it's the price you pay for picking 2 relievers.
Yeah. Yeah. I had. Who did I have? Oh, I think I had Benny.
You had Benny. Yeah, you did. I remember.
Yeah, because I said he was gonna have a big game against Severino.
And he did. He did.
didn't.
He did have a couple of big games in the series. He just wasn't.
Yeah,
it
but
wasn't.
not against. Yeah.
It wasn't. I think we can both agree on who the series MVP was for the Red Sox, though.
All right, hit me with it.
Jonathan Holder. No. But seriously, like when you think about it, I mean, Steve Pearce, obviously a player on the Red Sox, was the most valuable player for the series, in my honest opinion. Just based off of.
See,
I mean, he single-handedly took New York by the throat and strangled them in Game 1, and I think that alone was enough for me because he just basically.
I'm not disagreeing.
Who would
I'm
you say?
not agreeing.
Who are you picking?
I'm going with Porcello. The reason I'm not taking Pierce
Just because it's too obvious.
is no, not even that. After the first inning of the second game,
He was basically non-existent.
he disappeared.
Yeah, that's true.
And I wrote it. I'm pretty sure it's in my notes for this game that all Pierce needed to do to secure it for me would be 2 hits in Game 4, or
Another homer.
another homer, and
Greedy
I
bastard.
don't think he did that.
I mean, it was close.
So
for me.
because he disappeared, yeah, because he ended up going 0 for 4 in that game. He had a clutch walk, but really,
Yeah.
so because he disappeared after Game 2, I'm definitely not taking away what he did early in the series. That is MVP worthy. If it wasn't for Rick Porcello having one of the best starts
of the last 3 or 4
Period.
years. Yeah. For the Red Sox.
So
But the overall.
for that reason alone, I am going with Porcello.
But my overall series MVP is 100% Jonathan Holder. I really don't care because when you think about it, he single-handedly won the Red Sox Game 1, and then he was the losing pitcher in Game 2 also. So he gave up 8 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning in the series. His ERA entering the series was 2.06, and he exited with a 3.65. He's definitely the overall series MVP in my eyes, just based off the fact that
It's for all the wrong reasons.
for all the wrong reasons, he was the best player in the series for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah. Overall, I'm still gonna stick with Porcello because I picked him for the Red Sox MVP. It would be stupid to pick another Red Sox ahead of him. So.
Yeah, that's true.
So after 2 hours, we're finally gonna wrap it up here. But that's just how good this series was. There's so much.
Can we actually throw in a little bit about the Blue Jays series because I actually have to leave.
Yeah, we'll tag that on right now instead of just doing a full one.
Because in all seriousness, I don't think there's really much to talk about when it comes to the series. We just don't have Sale again. No. The rotations, Pomerantz tonight, Johnson tomorrow, and Porcello on Thursday.
Can't wait for that. I'm not even going to be home for the Porcello start.
I'm actually, you know what's weird? I'm really looking forward to the Pomerantz start tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. I am too, actually. I actually think he's going to do well. He may not.
I told you when we were previewing the
Philly series. Yeah.
What series was it? Is it the Philly series? I said the Philly start isn't going to be his turnaround game. It's going to be Toronto.
Yeah, and I am actually looking forward to it. Like, it may not be the Pomeranz of last year, but I feel like he might maybe go an extra inning tonight. Maybe be 6 and 2 runs.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it a lot. I think he's actually going to pitch pretty well, considering the Blue Jays are out of it. And I don't see them being a very motivated team at this point. With no Donaldson too, it just doesn't make much sense for him to get lit up.
His ERA going into tonight is going to be a 6.56. I think if he can get it down to under like 6.2.
If he can get it down, well, the thing is, if he goes 6 and allows 1 run, I'm pretty sure it will drop under 6.
Will it?
Yeah, it'll be like 5. It'd be like 5-9 something, but it'll be close. But he'd be hovering.
If he can go under 6, that would be.
But like
awesome.
I said,
if he goes under 6.2, I'll be happy.
Well, like I said, entering the Phillies series, you gotta discard everything you did before that. It's the Phillies game and forward. After that, it's nothing. Or before that, sorry. Before that's nothing. After that, it's what he provides for you for the rest of the year.
Right. So you got Pomeranz versus Marcus Stroman, who's coming in 4-8 with a 5.63 ERA.
Bad, man. He's been bad.
Brian Johnson is coming in game 2, 2-3, 3.74 versus Mike Hochschild, who is 1-0 after he came in relief. I think it was in the second inning of the Blue Jays game. So he's 1-0 without a start. 6 shutout innings in relief. And then on Thursday, as we alluded to, it's Rick Porcello versus a dude I can't pronounce. So.
The thing with Porcello is, though, he tends to struggle in Toronto at that ballpark specifically. So we might be looking at a case where he might have the worst start after having the best one. But it'll be close.
Since there really is not a whole lot to talk about, it's a great team against a slightly below average team. It's pretty easy to see where this should go. So let's just jump right in superlatives. Who do you think is going to... Let's start negative and work our way up. Who's going to have the worst start of the series?
Tendencies tend to repeat themselves, but it's tough to go against Porcello after what he did last game, so I will go Pomeranz. I won't go Johnson again. Okay. I'll shy away from him. Only because I feel like Johnson will improve on last start in terms of the runs he allows. Yep. Porcello will be probably not as good as he was last time, but he'll be still good enough. And then Pomeranz, if he only goes 6 or goes only 5 and allows 2 runs, it's kind of tough again to give him anything positive other than he didn't suck again.
It is hard to put faith in Pomeranz, even with Johnson, and even with the fact that I said that this would be the turnaround game for him, right. Even though he did take a giant step in that Phillies game.
Even though he wasn't great, he still was better than
he was good enough.
Yeah. He just got shortchanged with one earned run, or with one run scored for him.
Right. So, I'm going to agree with you on that one. For Toronto, I don't care.
Stroman will have the best start. That's all I know. He's the only... I mean, even though the Sox have historically beat him up pretty good, I still think he's the guy that'll probably have the better start than the rest of them.
I'll go Hochschild for worst, and you know what? Just for differential sake, I'll go with Baruki. I'm sorry to your family.
All I know is that guy. That guy will probably have one of the worst starts too. I don't know from a runs.
I'm gonna go with him for best start.
Baruki.
Yeah.
Baruki has not allowed a home run yet as a starter this year. That's worth noting. But he also hasn't faced the Red Sox as a starter this year. But we'll see. I see him having the worst and Stroman having the best, just because Stroman's the best pitcher out of the three. I just don't see him being that bad for so long.
With a 5.63 ERA.
Just don't see him being that bad for the entire year.
For the Red Sox, I mean, it's low-hanging fruit after what happened on Saturday, but I'm going Porcello for best start.
That's perfectly fair.
Series MVPs for both.
Toronto.
And then overall.
Toronto will go Justin Smoke. Biggest power bat in that lineup. The only guy that really scares me in that lineup. And for the Red Sox MVP, I'm gonna roll with. I'm gonna roll with Jackie Bradley Jr.
Ooh,
not even just from an offensive standpoint. I'm sure he'll have a pretty good series offensively, but defensively, I feel like there's going to be a couple of plays where we look back on and we're like, if he doesn't make that play, this is a completely different outcome.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's been snake bit so much lately with hard lineouts and whatnot that he's just bound to have a huge series out of nowhere and maybe hit a couple home runs.
Yeah, I'm just shocked to hear him come up when you consider some of the guys in the series. Who to pick from Toronto?
You can copy me. It's okay.
I think I'm gonna have to.
They won't know. If you just do it with confidence, they'll just pretend you said it first.
Yeah, it is hard to go against Smoke. You know what? I'm just gonna say Kendrys Morales, just because.
You're an ass.
Yeah, he's having a decent year. 250, 13 homers.
Ass.
Sure, why not?
Scrub.
For the Sox, I'm going Mookie.
He does own that ballpark historically. Yeah. He always crushes it. I wanted to pick Mookie, but like I did last time we did these, it was too obvious for me, so I went with Jackie because I feel like he does pretty well at that ballpark too. I just feel like defensively he's gonna make a couple of plays that you'll remember more than you'll remember the offense.
No, I just feel like Toronto with the low fences. That's not low fences, but it's sort of shallow, and the fences aren't that high. Right. I just feel like it's perfect for a line drive guy like Mookie to really do damage. Yep. So. Overall, I guess that leaves me by default with Mookie, so.
Right, wow, we are over 2 hours on this.
Yep, we've been over 2.
2 hours and 11 minutes.
Yep.
Props to you if you're still watching this, or listening to this, sorry.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up here, finally. Let you guys carry on with your day, even though you probably are anyway. Not gonna do the plugs, we've kept you here long enough. I'm Dylan. That's Jordan. Enjoy the series.
Peace out, guys.